honeying my tea.
Hello there, everyone. I need everyone to acknowledge that the first words on this stream was Seki saying, I'm honeying my tea.
I- Is that a bad thing to be saying?
Not on a stream called Tea Time Chat.
Okay, then I don't know why that needed acknowledgement. Hi, Dakota Doyle. Hi, Sunanite. Hi, Zero.
Whew, my tea is point. It has a strong smell to it.
Well,
I've
I
never made this
suppose.
tea before. I have no idea how this is going to taste.
Well, I suppose that means that you get to be the first person to explain your tea type.
So I have a red kiwi fruit tea made with apple pieces, hibiscus petals, carrot pieces, candied pineapple pieces, raisins, kiwi pieces, mallow blossoms, and then just vaguely natural flavorings. I'd say the brand, but the brand is actually a local brand to where we live, so giving away the brand would be doxing us.
Technically, if it's the place I think it is, it's actually from the next state over.
It's not the place you think it is. It's a different place I got
Ah, okay.
at a local event.
Okay. I was gonna say, because if it's the place I think it is, it's a state over, technically. There's at least two ingredients there that I am allergic to.
No, this isn't even from this state. We've been pretty open what state we're in. This is this city.
Yeah. Um, no, not sugar, Zerha. Sometimes sugar. It depends on the tea type. Some teas are better with honey, some teas are better with sugar. Sometimes you're in a sugar mood, sometimes you're in a tea mood, or a not a tea, a honey mood. It just depends.
I like
Like
honey
if I'm
more in the
sick,
evenings and
honey all the
afternoons
way.
than when I'm sick. I like sugar more in the morning when I'm trying to wake up, which I shouldn't do because I try to intermittent fast in the morning and I shouldn't be adding sugar to my tea then.
That's fair. I'm a little bit more firm on it being a type of tea based thing. There are certain teas that don't necessarily taste good with honey. Or honey is like a little overwhelming to them if you add them. Like there's some teas that have like a relatively weak flavor, right? Not because they're bad or anything, but just because they don't have like a particularly strong flavor. And those could do better with sugar and not honey because honey always has its own flavor, right? Like honey isn't just like pure sweetness. It has a flavor. Especially the honey I use, since most of the honey I use is specific types of flowers. So, like, there's a difference between wildflower honey and clover honey, and those are the two most common honeys I buy. So, I'm actually not stepping outside the tried, tested, and true. I've got summer bouquet again. I like it so much. It's like it's so nice in summer. I think it's just like the hibiscus and the rose,
Mm-hmm.
and the lack of caffeine. I've got like three or four different types of teas there that have the hibiscus rose combination. And it's just a winning flavor combo when you add some like berries to it. You know? Um so yeah, that's what I'm drinking. Although the more interesting part, it's in my new mug. I got this from the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. It has dinosaurs.
When did you go to the Smithsonian?
When I was in New York.
Smithsonian's in DC.
Sorry, not the Smithsonian. What did I go to? It was a Museum of Natural
Yeah,
History.
it's just
What's
the
it called?
Museum of Natural History. I think that's
Oh,
it's called, the
sorry.
Museum of
I've
Natural
been to the
History.
Smithsonian too. That's why I got them confused. And I saw dinosaurs there too.
I've never been to
Because
the
I was in
Museum of
DC.
Natural History. I don't think that one's the one that's in the night at the museum.
Yeah, I went to that one with my mom the last time I went to DC. So I have been to both technically. Um, but yeah, it was like the Museum of Natural History was like the one thing I did in New York that involved going outdoors in the disgusting weather. While I was there.
Well, I think we should probably get the housekeeping topics out of the way here first.
What are
Uh,
the housekeeping topics? That sounds bad.
Anything related to the channel itself. Just knock
Oh,
those
okay.
out of the way. So, I guess big thing here is, and don't let this feel like an interrogation here. You just give whatever answers
Oh no.
honest. Where are we at on the uploads right now? We just recorded something yesterday, so
Yeah. I think my goal is to have that something out, yesterday's video out Sunday. Um, And then I'll get maybe Prilia out tomorrow. And then Friday I'll get the reacts that's going up first this week. I've got to do some extra recording for that one, so I need to grab a couple of screenshots here and there, so it's going to take me a couple extra minutes to edit it than normal.
Yeah. Sorry if I caught it any earlier.
It's all good. A slight technical glitch happened in the middle of recording. You know, it's just the getting back to the into the swing of things. Plus, Prilia sounds really the Prilia off the shelf is actually pretty fucking awkward. I was starting it earlier and I'm like, oh, we are rusty.
Yeah, we were real. I remember that one. We came back real rusty.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that because we were kind of trying to prepare to record it earlier than we ended up recording it. I finished it long before we recorded it, so it's
Yeah.
it's a little rough.
Yeah. It's not ideal.
Um,
So yeah, couple videos coming out this. They shouldn't push anything later than like Monday of next week, but
okay.
you know. Also, I need a slightly manga. Also, I need to slightly I have to slightly shift when videos go up each month. Just because I've realized that we currently have, for some stupid reason, we didn't think when we planned out when videos were going to go up. Why is our first video of the month always going up before we record that video?
It should be the first day. It should be after we record. The it starts after we
It
record that first
almost
one.
never is. There's always a Friday before we record at the beginning of a month.
I think
Every month so far.
I think there was just a kerfuffle when we were putting down the schedule and the spreadsheet then, because the original plan was record the first
No,
Saturday of the month and then start uploading that next Friday. That was the
nope.
original plan, and that's how the cycles are supposed to work. If it doesn't line up, it's because there was a kerfuffle in the getting everything down on the schedule after, because there was a lot of catch up at the time. Because there should always be about um, 4 Fridays between recordings, and that's when the 4 videos are supposed to go up.
Yep, yep.
With the podcast discussion going up first, because that's
Yeah.
the easiest as fuck one to
And
edit.
yet, neither one of us has caught 3 months in a row that that's not what's happening.
Well, that's just because the schedule has been kind of like we went into catch up and then you went on break, so it hasn't quite worked out that way.
Sure.
I mean, that was the pitch. I have it written down if you need me to send it to you.
That's fine.
I guess the next thing we should touch on here, because I actually have an update here, but if you have an update, feel free to share as well. Stream schedules, like, do you have any consistent days you plan to share? It's just still, I know you play a little bit more by ear than I do, so.
Well, yeah, because I usually shift my schedule around you when you need extra days or like
Mm-hmm.
specific evenings or like other days. Yeah. So I'm not very regular at the moment. I'm just when I have time, when I have the ability. I mean, over the course of September, I'll be doing a ton of streaming, but that's just because I'm gonna have almost every single day free in September for streaming. And now that I know that I can run a stream off of my laptop, because I can take my laptop with me, because I've got out of house jobs. So
It makes it easier for you to pull streams out
yeah,
on long breaks.
yeah. So I'm not really gonna have like a solid stream schedule update probably until like October. For like, you know, regulated like on these days of the week at these times.
My update is my stream schedule is getting a lot looser. For like the past half a year to half a year to 3 quarters of the year, I swear, I've been stuck on a schedule where I could really only stream Mondays, and then I was like trying to loosen that up, make it push myself a little bit more so I can get an extra stream in there. I can now basically shuffle between Monday, Tuesday, and some Wednesdays now, just because of like how things are working out for work now. I can't go into the details, obviously, because this is IRL shit. But going forward, I can be a little more flexible with you about what days I'm streaming. You can claim Mondays again or Monday evenings again if you want.
Fair. Fair. Yeah.
Um, I guess I have two more channel topics unless you have anything you want to bring up regarding the channel.
Not regarding streaming or anything, although I do see someone commenting in chat that LB6 is gonna take a while off.
Like LB6 is long. I never thought you were like I can get through LB6 quickly, and I was like, I mean, if you really push it, really push it. But also, there's a reason I gave you that. Like the original plan when you wanted to catch up, like by the end of next year, was to give you basically a full like quarter to half a year on LB6. It's because
I
I knew
refuse to
this one was
take that
long and
long.
very variable.
I refuse to take that long. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. This shit's gonna be done by like end of October.
Good luck.
I refuse.
um, on the topic of streaming, though, my next topic I had to bring up here. This is going to be a real quick one. It's on a couple upcoming sort of I call it event streams, but they're still just gaming streams, but they're a little bit more up to date. For the launch of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, I'm actually going to be doing a much earlier and a much longer stream. So I believe that's the 17th. I believe I want to say.
I think so, yeah.
Now I need to know what time my copy of Fortune's Weave is actually being delivered, mind you. But
Watch it be delivered at like 10 p.m. at night
I would
on the
crash the
17th.
fuck out. Um,
Well, what's it
it's like
getting
you don't
delivered
understand.
through?
I don't want to talk about it.
What is it, Amazon?
No,
Is not Amazon? Is it the United States Postal Service?
there's a good chance it's actually getting DoorDash to my house, based off of how previous pre-orders through this company would typically go.
That's a choice.
Yeah. Um, I can say it's an international corporation. I don't know why I'm dodging it. I just don't want to admit it. I got my pre-order through Walmart because I got the special edition, and that's why
Oh,
I could get it through.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, Walmart.
yeah. Realistically, I don't know if I trust them to get that out early in the day.
I mean, when the Switch 2 came out, they got those out pretty early in the day. I just don't know if they're using the same system for most other pre-orders. That when they sent the Switch 2 out, they not only got it out earlier in the day, but apparently the people that it didn't get canceled on managed to get like Pringles in like a Mountain Dew 2 liter or something like that. They canceled my order. They owe me a Pringle. Um,
Yeah, that's a free Pringle.
and the last topic I have here, I may or may not have dropped it in my little private Tsukihime chat. I did talk Seki into doing a Tsukihime off the shelf sometime vaguely next year.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get me
Get you
whatever
a
that
copy.
is well in
It's
advance.
I'll get it to you. I'm really just waiting on it to go on sale. Like
What's it
there's
gonna be
obviously
on? Switch,
Switch.
right?
Yeah, I'll get it for you on
Yeah, okay.
Switch. So I'm basically
Okay.
just gonna send you money until you buy it now. It's on sale.
Okay.
Um, obviously there will be a deadline where if it doesn't go on sale by this time, I am just cashing out at full price. But we'll
Yeah.
talk
But
about it.
hopefully it'll go on sale. I don't know, you've got Black Friday coming up in a couple months.
Yes, I don't know if the Type Moon visual novels go on sale on Black Friday. They usually go on sale on the New Year's and they'll probably go on sale around the time the Mihoyo movie comes out. At least the Mihoyo one did. Well, but I don't know. The React for Tsukihime characters, that would come after we do the second route. So that'll probably not be next year with where we've timed that. That'll probably be sometime the following year if we get to it at that point. It just depends on scheduling works out. All right.
I mean, that's a I was gonna say that's a pretty good segue if we want to just talk about Switch for a second.
Sure, that was one of the things I had for our little for the next little set of topics I wanted to go over was you wanted to talk about your Switch stuff.
A little bit, yeah. Well, because like, like obviously, I've not really like I had your old Switch, but I never really used it or took it with me anywhere or did
Hmm.
anything with it that wasn't like explicitly done when you were in the room with me, pretty much, because I just didn't have it like going or whatever. But
Hmm.
I've now traveled with the Switch too, and I picked up another new game. I got Kirby and the Forgotten Land because it was on sale recently.
You were eyeing
So
that one back when it released on Switch too. Like you saw that, and you're like, that
yeah,
looks a little bit interesting.
yeah. So I just thought we talked a lot about Switch 2 when it was coming out, and I talked a lot about it when I had just gotten it before I'd actually put like any real time onto it. And I think
Hmm.
maybe now is a good time to revisit, having taken it halfway across the globe and tried a couple of different games on it,
We played a round of Mario
including
Kart right before you left.
yeah, including some Mario Kart. Um, so I still think it's too big as a handheld. It's just a little too big. It's too much bigger than the original Switch to be comfortable handheld for me. So I can't really hold it and play it. I have to disconnect the controllers and set the screen up either separately or just plug it in through the dock because it's just too big, too heavy.
I can't even say I
Um,
disagree with you. Have I ever shown you how I actually play my Switch when I'm playing it in handheld mode?
I don't think so. I don't think I've. I mean, I think I've seen you use it, but
So, got the Switch here. I
yeah.
pop out the stand and I lean the stand on my hand and play like this. So it's like I'm
Oh,
resting it like that. It
well,
is a
yeah,
little
because
too
it's
heavy and
just
too bulky to just hold like this.
well, and to be fair, it is a little on me. I did make mine a little bulkier with these big hand grips, but the big hand grips are what make the
It makes
actual
it.
like
They
these
look
are
like they're a
easier to
little bit more
use.
ergonomic with those hand grips.
Yeah, they are because I've got like a solid chunk
Because like you
to
have like
kind
a
of
little
go
bit of
with.
a bump on the spot where this part of your hand goes. It's the same
Yeah.
logic behind using like I'll bring out my Thor here. Having these on the Thor gives you a little bit of something
Yep.
to grip on at an angle.
Yep. It's that exact thing. I've got like this big bump on the bottom end and stuff, and lots of tactile like bits. So yeah, I
Lauren,
like
don't
I
underestimate my pockets.
yeah. Well, you're a man. Fuck off. So yeah, I don't really think it's not a handheld console, unfortunately. That's just not something it's ever going to be for me. Um, Traveling with it is interesting. Um, it's a little big, like even like in its case. I mean, it takes up like a pretty decent amount of space in your carry-on, right? You don't want to pack it checked, obviously, because Lord knows what they do to checked luggage. So I packed it carry-on. And like it fits in my carry-on, that's fine. I didn't really use it on the plane or anything. Like I wasn't pulling it out mid-plane to use it. However, I will say, very, very rude of JFK airport. Apparently, when they tell you that the only piece of electronics you need to pull out of your bag for security is your laptop, that's a lie if you have a Switch too. And they will, in fact, pull your bag aside, unpack the entire 20-pound backpack, top to bottom, into individual containers, rescan the entire thing because of your Switch 2, and then give you back 4 containers worth of stuff and an empty backpack.
Oof.
While you are already 2 hours past when you meant to arrive at the airport for a flight.
I have traveled with the Switch too. I got really lucky, in the terminals I went through had the. I didn't go through JFK, but the terminals I have been through didn't require the laptops to be pulled out. And I know that's always a question when you're at the airport and going through security.
Yeah,
But the what I will say is I do agree the Switch 2 is not like the DS is like I could literally keep that in my pocket while I go through security and just put it in with my phone and
yep,
such when I through that security checkpoint. With when I'm traveling with the Switch and the Switch original as well, but the Switch 2 is the Switch and the Switch 2. When I'm traveling with that, it's more like I'm traveling with like a proper camera or with a tablet or something where like no, you have to pack that a little bit more intentionally. It's a
yeah,
little easier on a
yeah.
laptop, a
So
little harder than a little harder than a tablet.
yeah. So very inconvenient of JFK to, tell me I need laptop and I specifically said any other bits of like tech need to come out, right? Like switches or anything, and the guy looked me in the eyes and said, "No, just your laptop."
That
Then
just
my
sounds like
entire
great
bag was
times.
pulled aside. They emptied out the entire fucking thing, and I had to repack it in the middle of the airport.
That just sounds like you got the brand new guy. I do not believe for a moment they have not had to go through Switch 2s from kids before, that they don't know what that is.
Dude, it was such like I already hate going through airport security because it's like I know I've flown so many times. There's nothing in my backpack that is not allowed, right? Like I have this down to a science. Like, it's so annoying. But yeah, so it's a little inconvenient to pack. I didn't end up using it a whole ton in Europe. I did use it in New York a few times. Mostly to play Mario Kart because Mario Kart's fun. I do like Mario Kart World. That's ended up being a really fun game for me. I've never really been able to play a Mario Kart before, so it's kind of nice getting to play one. Spent a little time on Pocopia. I've done a little bit of time on Kirby Forgotten World now. Um, and so on. I'm really liking Kirby Forgotten World because it's kind of um
It's a 3D platformer. I know you like Spyro,
yeah.
you like Astrobot. There's a lot of 3D platformers I would love for you to try at some point. But I'm like curious to
Mhm.
see how it looks as you keep poking at different ones.
Yeah, I think there's one game I've got on my wish list right now, Mina the Hollower. So we'll see when I
Mm.
get that, because I do want to play that. But yeah, I mean, altogether, it's ending up being an interesting console. Um, I think the thing I'm most excited for that I haven't gotten to do a ton of testing yet with is the co-op functions, like playing games with friends. That's what I'm most excited for that I haven't really had a whole lot of opportunity to try.
You gotta talk to
Unfortunately, because of the price of the Switch 2, a lot of my friends don't have them yet that have a Switch 1. So,
you've got to talk to a Winter. You can set up a small group server on Pocopia.
yeah, that was my thought. I think, and there's co-op modes for other games. So
Yeah,
yeah,
some of which you only need one copy of the game to play with other people.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm
I guess
altogether pretty positive on it. A little bit frustrated at JFK, but that's not actually the Switch's fault. That's that
that's
fucking
not even
airport.
JFK's fault. That's that one individual guy who, for some reason, had never seen a Nintendo Switch come through that security checkpoint before.
Hell, God, it was awful. It's like no, and that's the other thing is that like the airport closest to us, you don't have to take out laptops for. I've
Not
never had
anymore.
to take a laptop out at our local airport,
I
right?
did
Not
for
since I
like
started traveling with a laptop.
I did for
Um,
a little bit on the side that I go in at the airport, but they've switched that out in like the last 2 or 3 years.
yeah, but I know that some of the bigger airports, like, because obviously I've flown a lot internationally, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there are some airports that are just always unpleasant to go through because of their amount of security, right? JFK I've had issues with before. Washington Dulles, famously, I don't think I've ever not gotten caught in security scanners for something I'm wearing at Washington Dulles. I think not Munich, but one of the other German airports. I also every single time I fly through that airport, I get patted down. Right? Like it doesn't matter what I do. One time, I think I triggered the fucking metal detector with my braces and my glasses. Cuz it was the only bit of metal I had on me. It was just my braces and my glasses and they were like, "Oh, we have to pat you down." I was like, "Buddy, you can. There's nothing on me except for the stuff that is physically cemented to my face and required for me to move." Like, I
Well,
am down to shorts, a t-shirt, and socks.
this is probably a great segue here. How was your trip?
Hot.
Yeah.
Hot in a way that I have never experienced heat before.
Could you say you had
I
a hot girl summer?
yeah, yeah, that is truly a way to describe it. Don't get me wrong, I very much enjoyed getting to go to Spain, and I liked Menorca, and I enjoyed for the most part what I was doing at the dig, but I I have never lived in that level of humidity before, right? California is dry. California is hot. But like 100 degrees and 10% humidity is not the same as 100 degrees and 80% humidity.
Dakota, no, that's the
Um,
problem. These digs are all in the summer because you know who's on these digs? Academics.
yeah,
And do
yeah,
you know what's harder than digging in the heat? Digging in the mud in the middle of like a cold, rainy
yeah.
winter.
That which is why a lot of digs don't run for 3/4 of the year because you want hot, dry climate, or at least a warm, dry climate. Wetness makes it unpleasant. In some places, you can't avoid it, right? Like I know there's a lot of digs in like Ireland and Scotland and the UK that are just always a little bit muddy and wet, but you know,
Now, does this do I sometimes question Seki's chosen career path due to her lack of tolerance for heat
and bugs and
and
sun.
bugs and sun? Maybe a little bit sometimes, but you know, needs must, and there's no other way around it once you're actually in that career path.
Well, and I think the irony is I didn't struggle so much in Greece because Greece is a lot drier. It's still hot and it's still a little bit more humid than it is here, but it's not that much more humid. It's not like tipping the 80 to 90% humidity scale, you know? So, you know, that was certainly an experience. I didn't know there were parts of my body that could sweat like they did. I was not aware you could sweat from your kneecaps. That just wasn't a part of my body I thought I could sweat from. I learned that lesson. But I had a lot of fun. I might like share like a photo or two in the Discord, in like photos or something. Just I want to make sure I'm not gonna show anything like too weird that people are gonna be like, "What the fuck?" Um, but yeah, the food was good. Climbed a lot of stairs. It was really nice to be in Spain when Spain won the World Cup. That was an absolutely amazing experience, you know, just like sitting out with a bunch of other people, you know, like 300 people watching the same tiny TV at this bar outdoors in the heat, in the humidity at 11 p.m. at night, waiting for somebody to score and the screaming when the scoring happened. Truly wild. I'm not a football fan, but I could be for that atmosphere. You know, it's just one of those things where you're like, you kind of just get into it in the experience. Um,
No,
Went
I
to a
get it.
couple museums. Went to a traditional fish market. You know, I love me my fish and my seafood, so the fish market was lovely. And then a couple weeks in New York, where somehow the weather in New York was actually worse than Spain. Significantly worse than Spain. Possibly some of the worst weather that no, not possibly the worst weather I've ever experienced in my life.
Look, that's just East. I've been to the East Coast a couple times during summer. It's like you go out there and there could be like a storm that looks like the end times are happening going on in the sky, but you step out and it's still far too hot.
Yeah, yeah,
And
we
then you
had we
walk
had
around the Martin Luther King Memorial and it feels like you're literally standing in tinfoil because of the way all of
yeah,
that marble is reflective.
yeah, we had literally 2 weeks of days where it was like 95 degrees at like 95% humidity and raining, like active flooding rainstorms, which was actually disgusting, horrendous. Genuinely the worst weather I've experienced in my life. I am not a humidity person. I'm not a person who survives humidity well. I do
Suddenly
not like it.
appreciating Cali's really dry heat and then the ability to flee
Well,
to a coastal city at any part of the state.
there's sort of like the trade-off here, right? Is that like in New York, when I walked outside the apartment, I immediately started sweating, right? Like full drips rolling down from every part of my body, soaked through in 5 minutes. If I walk outside here in Cali, it's hot. But it's gonna take me a good like 15 or 20 minutes to start sweating because it's just so damn hot.
You know, Seki actually could do digs in Alaska. The problem is Alaska's not at all in any field Seki's interested in.
Nope. I do want to try some digs like further up north in Europe, but you know, I just haven't yet.
Seki actually
Because
has
they're
connections to the archaeology field in Alaska.
Yeah, yeah, like very, very close and significant connections. Um, that I'm somewhat avoiding because I am not an American anthropologist. Um, so
But
yeah,
like, if you ever got
that's
sick of this shit and wanted
disgusting.
an easier path to go down, at least you know you have a fallback.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a nice trip. I learned I actually don't know if I learned anything new. It was more just sort of like a slightly new experience in a different place. I didn't learn anything per se that I didn't already learn from previous digs.
I know.
Um,
I heard you learned the firsthand experience of European elitism about air conditioners.
oh my fucking god, the AC saga. The absolute saga that was AC. Here's the thing. I believe in air conditioning. I believe that air conditioning is a good thing. And to be honest, a lot of parts of Europe don't convert to air conditioning simply because it is extremely expensive to do that, right? And I understand that especially in Europe where their houses are not built for central air and heat, like almost ever, and the process of putting in central air and heat would be almost prohibitively expensive for most people living there. But even like the in-room air conditioners are quite expensive. And in some ways, I know a lot of people in Europe have this kind of like mentality that air conditioning is like super expensive because they have these in-room air conditioners that you turn them on and it costs money and water because you're having to cool the house down from a really high temperature only to get it down to livable and then turn it off because they don't have a good system to maintain like a central AC in a lot of homes, right? Especially when you're not in like really big cities with a lot of modern buildings. Like typically you never have a problem when you're like out at a store, or a coffee shop or something or a restaurant. Those always have plenty of good air conditioning, right? Like if you're really really hot in Europe, find a cafe, buy a coffee, you know? Like you'll hello peachy. Like you'll be able to find AC. It's just like in the homes it's not very common. Which is unfortunate
And
because
in
in the
fairness,
past.
for decades, and it didn't need to be common.
Yeah, like you have to think like Europe, the last 10 years in Europe, the summers have just been getting progressively hotter, like breaking records every single year. And that's not normal. Like the heat wave that was across all of Europe this summer, not normal for them. They was literally like the hottest temperatures that most of those places have ever recorded in like the last like 200 years or so. And Spain was on fire when I was there, partially, and so there was an atmospheric dome over the Balearic Islands that was keeping the heat in, and the vast majority of the wind was actually coming from the north from Spain, so it wasn't a cool wind, it was a hot wind. We actually didn't get like a decent cool wind until like my last 3 or 4 days there when the wind direction changed and it started coming up from the coast of Africa. And that did actually cool off slightly, you know?
It
And by
was
slightly, I mean like 2 or 3 degrees.
it was just funny to hear the air conditioning saga at the same time
Yeah.
people from Europe were visiting the States for the World Cup, and you're seeing a lot on social media of oh, I get why air conditioning is needed out here.
Yeah, and the saga of the air conditioning for those who like are unaware of this saga is that well, so one of the things is that generally when you're at like an archaeological field school or something like that, and depending on the accommodations, they'll tell you if there's going to be AC available or not, right? And that's never something that I specifically look for, right? Like I'm not looking at like digs and going, do they have AC or not as a criteria. But my last two did have AC like back where we were staying, right? Because we were up in a hostel for one and we were in apartments for another, and we had access to AC that was able to be run whenever we were home, you know? So it's like, yeah, it's hot and the heat is like a lot, but you can come inside to the air conditioning if you get too hot, you know? Like spend like the hottest part of the day indoors. No, the first day we were there, the fuse box that was connected to all the ACs like shorted out. And we basically were put on like restriction because the other thing is right now Menorca's experiencing a pretty bad drought as well. So like we also had restricted showers. So it was kind of like as soon as we were there, we had AC for like 3 or 4 hours, and then the fuse box blew. And then after the fuse box blew, we were told we could only use the AC at like 80 degrees, low fan from like 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., which is not the hottest part of the day. And the thing is, everything closed on the island between like 1 to 2 and like 7 p.m. So it's like you couldn't go out of the apartment and find somewhere cool to sit, right? Because everything was closed for siesta time, you know? But we also couldn't have the AC on at home because the fuse box was literally smoking in the walls if we tried to turn it on.
So,
Um,
Jens, I absolutely get the desire to have the windows open. I actually like having the windows open too. That's how my family does it during the evenings when they can. The problem, especially where we're at right now, is there's two things that kind of happen with my specific apartment.
mhm.
We're surrounded by a lot of pollinating trees. So if you leave the windows open during like the spring and fall, you just it builds up in your home like the pollen does, and it can really fuck with your allergies badly. Um, and then the other part of that, and this is something I've been discovering living in this apartment specifically because I have kind of an older apartment with a working air conditioner, but it's also very very touchy. It is cheaper and less likely to break the air conditioner for me to literally just leave it on. Like, yes, it's
Yeah,
terrible for the environment, but I am actually taking more money waiting until it heats up to try lowering the temperature.
because you're keeping it at a constant, so it's exerting less effort to keep it at that temperature. The problem, I think that, see, I understand that, and if I could, like, sometimes I open the window in my room, like, at night when it's cool enough, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get it. I would prefer like cool breeze coming in, you know, but it's just too hot in California. And then also, like, the problem in Menorca was that, yeah, we could open the windows in the afternoon when we weren't allowed the AC, but opening a window isn't helpful when there's no fucking wind.
It's not helpful in humid environments, that's for sure.
Yeah. Like, we opened up every window in the entire residence that we were staying in from back to front, and we had 3 different fans plugged in, and it still wasn't creating a breeze that made it livable.
Oh, here's another fun thing about my air conditioner, and I don't know how the apartment has allowed this air conditioner to be the one they stick with. If I try to turn the air conditioner too low compared to where the apartment is currently at, it actually will just outright break the entire fucking air conditioner, and they have to get a crane out here to get it taken down and either replaced or fixed.
Yeah, Jens, you know what I say to that? I don't off the top of my head know the exact conversions for 17 and 23, but I know approximately the conversions. If you keep your house any hotter than 75 degrees, don't invite me to your terrarium, you lizard.
Hmm.
75 and below, like that anything above 75 with AC on is unacceptable. Like, absolutely not. Like, okay, if you don't have AC on and you're relying on breeze, okay, that's fine if the house is like 80, 85 degrees, right? Whatever, you're not using the AC. But if the AC is on, 75 or lower. Point blank period. I'm not living in a terrarium. I don't need a heat lamp. I need cold. I need coolness.
I'm a
Like,
little
I
bit
don't need
better
it.
about
I don't
that,
need it
but
to be 17 degrees, but I need it to be like 22, you know? Or like 20. Celsius, of course. I don't need it to be 17, but I definitely don't need it above 22. Realistically. But yeah, I don't know. And then, it's just one of those things. But it's like, yeah, I use the AC during the summer. I barely touch the heater for the whole winter. You know?
same.
Like, my heater doesn't turn on until the house hits like 62.
For
Even
me, it's
then,
got to
I wouldn't.
literally be like raining, stormy, like hailing, and cold enough to where like I'm watching my dog shiver. I'm like, okay, I'm not torturing the fucking puppy.
If it's raining and it's above 62, I do not care.
Like
Nope.
I
This
I'm perfectly content to just throw on like sweats and a sweatshirt. I'll literally like I sometimes during the fall and winter, you guys will see my sweatshirt literally hanging off of my chair because I'll throw it on just in the
There's a
middle of the
reason I
day.
have like 17 blankets scattered around the house. If you're cold, put on a blanket, put on pants. Yeah, so I mean that's the kind of the long and the short of it. But anyways, the temperature was not ideal. Um, but yeah, other yeah, I can't. And the other thing is I don't sleep well if I'm hot. And it's not that like I'm waking up, it's that I can't get to sleep and stay asleep if I'm like actively sweating. Like that's like my body won't do it. Like I will just stay like awake, tossing and turning, trying to get comfy. And in the case of something like a dig, right, when I have to be up at like 5 in the morning to go out and do heavy labor, like outdoors for hours, I need to be able to sleep. Like there's like a line here, right? Is that I need to be able to sleep. Because otherwise, I'm going to be unpleasant, and I'm going to make that unpleasantness everyone else's problem. Not because I'm trying to punish them, but just because that's what's going to happen. You know, like it's unpleasant. Yeah. So I mean, central air and heat. I actually I've been keeping the house pretty warm since I got back. It's been staying around like 73 to 75 since I got back, which is warm for me. Normally I'm at like 68 to 72. You know. But I always tolerate heat a little better in California after I get back from Europe. We noticed that the last two times I got back and I was like sitting in like 75 degrees going like, "Ooh, it's a little cold." Like I
Yeah,
could
it's
put on
hilarious. Like
jeans.
I keep my apartment relatively cool, like around the 70-72 mark. I've had Seki come over after one of her digs, and she's like, "Can we turn the heat up?" Well, I'm like, "Sure. Can I get this skinwalker out of my house?"
Yeah, because normally I come over and I'm just like, "It's really warm in here. Do you have the fan on?" Yeah. But I mean, we were raised with central AC, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you know, it's just one of those things that we're used to. Yeah. No. See, my grandma's house in Russia, the house that we sleep in, right? The smaller house doesn't have AC. Um, I
And
have a
you're always
window.
there in the summer.
I have a window and a fan. The fan sits right in front of the window and it oscillates across me all night at the highest setting
That's the other time you
just
tend
so
to
I
be
can
pretty good
sleep.
when you come back from a trip, is when you're in Russia in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't get you out of the house when you're when you've been here throughout the summer.
Yeah. No. You would never get me out of the house when I'm here throughout the summer because I'm like it's too damn hot. Yeah. But yeah, so it was for the most part a nice trip for purpose, right? Like I got to see a couple of friends. I got to go experience. I made good friends on my trip. It was a surprisingly small group of people, so we got like we spent a lot of time together and we had a lot of fun. I'll see about like posting maybe like I think I've got a pretty funny video. I might have to like cut it halfway through to post it, but like it would be funny to see if I could post it. Although I will make the request that anything I post from to the Discord at least probably don't post that somewhere else. If it's like one of like a picture of the dig or something. You know, it's not like I'll get in trouble for it, but I would just prefer not to do that. Yeah.
So I crashed out this week.
I saw you crash out this week. I was unaware that you had crashed out until after the video processed. And then I watched said video along with everyone else, apparently.
I didn't. So I didn't tell Seki that video was going to go up.
No, I was so very confused when I got the notification. This video is okay for publishing. All checks have been completed.
It was like I literally sent this like long ass crash out message into our group chat,
Which
and
I
I'm
was
sitting there,
busy at the time that you sent it, so I didn't read it at the time.
and all because I'm like, Jesus Christ, these anime are being removed from the shop. It's making or from the streaming services. It's making our channel impossible to fucking do in some cases. And then like I'm sitting there stewing, trying to calm down. I realize I'm not calming down. I'm almost like I'm hitting the point where I'm just starting to rant to myself out loud. I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'm turning on a camera. And I hammered out a 10-minute video that I immediately made a thumbnail for and uploaded. And this is all in the span of like half an hour.
Yeah, yeah. And to be fair, I get it. I mean, I like I said, I watched the video. I was reading through the comments, and I know that like some people commented that like they don't have any problem with piracy sites, but I wonder if the people who commented that maybe don't live in the U.S. Because piracy is easier everywhere else in the world at this point.
I'd also ask
Um,
how recently they did it because in the last couple months there
yeah,
was a crackdown on a lot of the major sites that have
yeah.
made them much have made the repost of those sites not actually those sites, so they're much more sketchy and they tend to not have
Well,
the full catalog.
and it's not been just anime as well. I mean, we've lost some of the biggest manhwa and manga sites too. And with manhwa and manga sites, my biggest criticism with them has always been the same as the one you had over the series we're watching. It's not the new series that are coming out now that I'm concerned about not being able to read. It's the series that were finished 20 years ago that are posted and are old and people don't necessarily concerned about not being able to read. It's not, that I'm worried that I can't watch Boku no Hero. It's that I'm worried that I can't find a copy of The Wallflower, which came out 2 decades ago, right? So it's like it's the older stuff that we're losing through all of these purgings and stuff like that, like the stuff that isn't still being published, right? Because its license is expired, it's old, it's not as popular, or it's more of a cult thing these days.
I'm not gonna say it's in a great spot, but I actually think manga, like online manga streaming, to use the same term, is actually in a better spot than anime is right now. Because at least with manga,
It's
there's a growing sort
starting.
of movement for the publishers to start, like, basically blanket making a cheap service for their backlog. That's becoming a
But
thing that's
you,
happening a little bit more consistently. Anime, it's
yeah,
literally just Crunchyroll is the only dedicated Crunchyroll, and then like High Dive is like barely squeaking along. And these are
yeah,
not
but
connecting with publishers, and they're losing old series.
you got to think about like the time scale of this, right? Because we started losing major manga websites like 4 or 5 years ago, right? Like we started losing things like Manga Fox and shit like that, like years and years and years ago, right? Like Manga Fox went down when I was in high school for the first time, right? And the Manga Fox that came back after the original went down was not the same, right? Didn't have the catalog, etc. So manga now is in a better position, but we've already had half a decade of sites going down and there being a reaction that shows publishers that it's worth it for them to try and make that available. This is a newer thing for
Yep.
anime streaming, right? So I don't know, maybe give it 4 or 5 years, but I don't want to wait 4 or 5 years to watch the shows I want to watch. I don't want to be told, okay, because like right now, right, I'm not trying to tell you wait 5 years and this will fix itself like the manga scene is starting to, right? Because that wasn't logical for the manga scene either. I was pissed about it. But like this did happen to manga and it's now happening to anime, and I don't know if anime is going to recover in the same way that manga did, because manga is somewhat easier to publish online and just leave available. Like
I
anime is
also think
harder.
a lot of in anime it's a little work because at least manga, a lot of those big old classics even in English get a decent amount of physical reprints, like the old big shonen, even before you
Well,
get like the
I'm
new
not.
ones.
Yeah, but my complaint about the manga series was never for like the old things. It was like the little things, like One Half Prince that only ever got one print release in Taiwanese in like 2002 and was never re-released in any other country, never had an official English translation. You cannot buy it anywhere. Like it's yeah.
But even the like right now, even the big series are disappearing. Like this isn't like no name series are suddenly becoming inaccessible. This is like some of the like I can't find Initial D. Initial D is not
Mhm.
a no name series. That is a pretty has a pretty active and dedicated like community to it.
Yeah. It's pretty awful. I realize that I may have frozen.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I can still hear you. I'm just you didn't cut out for me, so. But yeah, like things like Initial D where I'm looking at it, I'm like Initial D should not be hard to find, right? Like on a scale of like a really well-known anime to like a much lesser known anime. Yeah, Initial D isn't necessarily like, right now in like the highest vogue, but it's also not unpopular. It's not unknown. It's not some tiny little series. Um
This isn't like that
yeah.
soda can harem series just disappeared off the internet. And
Yeah.
if Initial D can get disappeared off the internet, what the fuck is stopping that soda can series from being disappeared off the internet?
Yeah, Akikan. I don't know. And the thing is, High Dive was supposed to be a Crunchyroll competitor, right? After Verve kind of, well, because Verve got rolled into Crunchyroll, you know?
Verve was
Because Verve,
Verve was like a collaboration between Crunchyroll, another streamer, I can't remember which one it was, and then
yeah,
Funimation. But
yeah,
then was it Funimation pulled out of Verve first, making it
hmm,
just basically an expanded Crunchyroll, and then
yeah,
Funimation bought Crunchyroll, or Sony bought Funimation,
something like that.
and then
Yeah,
also bought Crunchyroll, and no one
yeah,
cared about that monopoly because it's a fucking anime monopoly, and the courts don't give a
yeah.
shit.
And so High Dive doesn't have that many titles. It didn't really manage to like establish itself against Crunchyroll. Like it exists, but I don't think we ever really needed to watch something on High Dive. Um,
I gave it a little bit of support when it was at its peak because it was at its peak when
yeah,
Oshi no Ko was coming out. That was its big
yeah,
exclusive, and then Oshi no Ko got too big to where they couldn't maintain the budget to keep it an exclusive. So Crunchyroll got a season of that, and then High Dive's been in kind
yeah.
of a free fall since. There hasn't been great High Dive, and also you know what's really the pits. You know, the reason why I didn't watch High Dive as much as I watched Crunchyroll, even though I had a High Dive, it's because Sony blocked them from ever having a PlayStation app.
Ah. See, I knew that High Dive didn't have apps on a lot of app availability. But I had just never even tried with the whole PlayStation thing. Um, and like I wouldn't be so mad at Crunchyroll if Crunchyroll wasn't actively starting to like remove things and like not mention it. And like there's been like some stuff over like the translations for like subbing and dubbing over the
They've been
last like
caught using
year.
AI lately.
Yeah, like you can't. I mean, obviously they can because they are, but I don't know. It's not. Crunchyroll is not engendering my loyalty or support at this juncture. Um, and I do think it's a little bit ridiculous that nobody in okay, let me phrase this in a very specific way. Nobody in the US holds the streaming rights to Initial D first stage. Actually, I don't think anyone holds the streaming rights to like the first 5 stages of Initial D in the US because it looks like Apple TV at one point had the third stage only of the anime, but not the other stages because I did find a listing on Apple TV for Initial D third stage that was now unavailable in your region. And when you look it up on Amazon, Amazon had it at one point, but it's now unavailable in your region, you know? And that's, to me, that's absolutely ridiculous. Like I hate this whole region locking thing that they've started that has become so much more of a problem in the last like decade. You know, it used to be that Netflix hosted a certain type, like Netflix had a catalog, right? Not Netflix the US has one catalog, Netflix Canada has another catalog, Netflix UK has another catalog, Netflix Europe has another catalog, Netflix Asia has another catalog. It didn't, like, I don't, why do I gotta figure out where my VPN needs to put me for me to watch a show on a service that I pay for that apparently offers that show somewhere in the world? Especially at the rates we're paying for a bunch of these streaming services. These are not cheap anymore. I am paying with ads on most streaming services because I'm not willing to pay for without ads because it's like $20 a service now.
You know what my crackpot theory is? These servers are literally running out of server space to post these anime. It's getting too expensive because like we all know that computer costs are going way the fuck up, and servers are going more and more towards AI. So where are these large HD video files being stored now and made accessible on stream compatible streaming services? That's my crackpot theory, but that's also just a theory. I could be completely off base at that. Don't take me as a source on that.
I mean, maybe, but is that like, are we just supposed to like, okay, is all TV then going to become fleeting and ephemeral? You get it for a season or two and then it's removed forever? Like
Feel
what's the breakdown here? If you're not gonna host it, you should sell it. Like you can't even buy some of this shit on like YouTube or anything. Like used to be reliably that even if nobody had the rights to stream it, you could buy a digital copy on like YouTube or something.
I would be significantly more chill if that were the case with these series. If it was literally
Yeah,
like, oh, you can't stream it for free, but they're all available on like iTunes or
yeah.
YouTube
Like I'll
Video.
buy it.
If it were available for digital purchase, that'd be a different story. That's how movies are when and
They're
TV shows tend to
not.
be. But like anime in particular, they just don't make it available for that.
You know, I've actually noticed something interesting on Google Play Movies and TV.
Mm-hmm.
More and more movies on there are showing up as unavailable in my region to buy. Like, I'm starting to run into region locks to buy movies and TV shows.
And did you hear? So I guess this is a topic I was going to work much later, but since we're on it and we're on the sins of Sony and Crunchyroll right now, did you hear about the people who found that they were missing movies from their movie
Yep.
collections?
Well, yeah. Because that happened right after they put out like the new update about the like no physical discs. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember because the first thing I saw about it was somebody posted on TikTok, and it was the PlayStation logo, and it's PlayStation has blank space limits. Because like the logo was has no limits, right? Like play has no limits.
Yep.
But play obviously has limits now.
Like they,
Especially since they've decided to emphasize to all of their users that you do not in fact buy your games on PlayStation anymore. You buy a licensing agreement that is subject to being retracted.
so that has always been the case. In fact, people were ringing the warning bells like a decade ago about
Well,
this.
yes, but it was never a threat until now. Like
Now it's like
for
things
the
are
for the
being.
last decade, it was just the wording of the contract, right? Like an end user license agreement, right? Like you do not own Minecraft, you own a license to this copy of Minecraft. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I don't own Minecraft, I just own a license to a copy of Minecraft. But like a decade ago, that was not an actionable threat on the face of a company.
The thing is, a decade ago, it wasn't a situation like if say iTunes lost the ability to sell a movie you bought on there, you would still be able to re-download it. This is the same on
Yeah,
there's apps on iTunes
because
as
you
long as
buy
they're
the
compatible with
movie.
your phone. And the idea of you only buying a license, the reason that was the case was because they didn't want you to turn around and hand a digital file you bought to somebody to someone
Yeah,
else. Uh, so that they could also use it, because you could do that if you own an item. You could,
yeah,
like, I could literally give my digital file or Seki could give me her digital files of the Lord of the Rings extended edition, and oh, I
yeah,
now have one, and she can make copies of it and give it to me. Um,
yeah.
it was supposed to be a protection against that kind of thing, but now it's becoming a thing where it's like, oh no, you're paying $20 to be able to stream this, and if you connect to the internet after the rights disappear, it's gone.
Yeah, which I mean, I think that's insane, but I also have a very different view
No,
on what I think gaming should be than most people.
it is insane. This wasn't the case. You could, like, back when the PlayStation 3, famous game demo for a game that never came out called PT, Playable Test. It was supposed to be for a game called Silent Hills. Drama with the company. Long story short, the game got canceled, but the demo was still really good in its own right. And eventually, they're like, okay, this game's not coming out. We're pulling the demo down from the store. It's no longer there. But if you already bought it and had it downloaded, it's still there. If you already bought it and it was in your
Yeah.
library, you could still re-download it. And for a long time, it was the case until suddenly you couldn't re-download it anymore because of Sony. And
Yeah.
now, if you just don't connect to the internet, they just take your ability to keep that kind of thing. I don't even know if you would like if those movies were downloaded, if you could still access them as long as you don't delete them from
Yeah.
your system.
Yeah, well, because the other thing is, like, I remember before I left, we talked about it, but like the fact that Sony, um, the fact that like like lost media games and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about the fact I think on another tea time that their policy was going to be that like if you didn't log into the internet within 30 days and you tried to start like one of your games that needed like a connection, it would just kick you out, right, unless you logged in. Because they
Yeah,
added that to their end, to their like licensing agreements, like the 30-day policy or whatever the fuck it was. And I was like, okay, well, it doesn't really affect me. um but like, no offense, if I buy a copy of a game on PlayStation, I expect to be able to play that game on PlayStation.
like I understand why some of these license fuckeries are around, but at the same time, there's very clearly an obvious need for higher levels of consumer protection in a lot of these digital agreements, especially because we're moving, and this is, I guess, a good segue into the other sin of Sony that came out. We're moving into an age where these companies want to move us into an all digital climate.
Yep, no more physical games as of what, July 2027,
Yep,
something like that.
I think it's the end of 20.
Which
I think it was
is
2028, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, which is insane to think about. Like the concept of just not producing physical games at all is actually a little insane to think about. Uh, like so many of my PlayStation games are physical discs.
I'm gonna pop out for a second. I need to use the restroom. I just drank too
Um,
much tea. I'll be right back.
like I don't I struggle to process the idea of not offering any physical disc at all, for purchase because like what. But then it reminds me of like, the copy of Anno I got for my PC, right? Where I was like, I ordered like the governor's edition of Anno 117, like the most deluxe. Stop hitting my chair, Loki. Like the most deluxe version of it, and I didn't get a disc with it. Like if I wanted to buy a physical disc, I would have to make a separate purchase of the game. You would think that like the $200 version of a game would come with a physical fucking disc. Why would it not? That's insane to me. And I will say, I did take a lot of joy in like all of the companies that put out like stupid joke posts being like, oh yes, like as of like the same date as Sony announced, we're going to produce only like non-physical controllers. You will control the games with like the power of your mind. Like, yeah, that's really funny. Like genuinely, I think it's hilarious, but it doesn't really but you are mocking something that's actually going to be a problem. As much as I love the joke, it's not a joke in some ways.
It's all things put together a very clear attack on on consumer rights here.
I
I'm
I just can't imagine who suggested this is a good idea. Like, why is this the pivot that Sony wants to take? Is the production of physical game discs so expensive that they can't justify it? But most of this stuff isn't the cost of most of this shouldered by like the individual developer studios? Is it Sony who's paying to disc these? Does it not pay for itself?
So here's a fun fact. Did you know Blu-rays are the current format for video game discs?
Yeah.
Did you know Sony is actually the creator and owner of the Blu-ray format?
Okay.
Do you know what happened to the factories that were being used for game disc printing for PlayStation games?
Have they converted to AI?
They've converted to like AI processing factories, like making the microchips, I believe it was. And here's another thing: Sony actually kind of signaled this that they do want to phase out Blu-rays because they no longer sell consumer standard blank printable Blu-rays. Like you can't just buy a Blu-ray you could burn something onto anymore.
Hmm.
This is very clearly
Interesting.
a long sort of game where Sony's trying to phase out the Blu-ray market, and they're really trying to push for that sort of digital streaming subscription based future.
Well, I don't approve. I would like to have the option to buy my games in physical. I mean, not gonna lie, that's why I had intended. So I still haven't bought the deluxe, like physical edition of Baldur's Gate, even though I would like to. Like, I do want to buy it, and because my PC doesn't have a disc drive, I had intended to buy it for PlayStation. Because I was like, well, I don't have a copy of Baldur's Gate for PlayStation, and you get all the same things, and I'll get the disc, and then I'll have a physical copy of the game. So I have a physical and a digital copy. Um, Suddenly the idea of just getting a fucking disk drive for my PC and just getting the PC version seems a lot more.
PC hasn't really made this for a lot of these games, though.
Baldur's Gate has it.
Oh, neat.
PC, Xbox, and PlayStation.
Larian producing an actual Baldur's Gate
Yeah,
disc, that feels like a Larian move. But a lot of
yeah.
devs don't do that anymore.
No, I. To me, that's ridiculous.
And yeah, I don't really know what to say with Sony because like bringing this back to anime a little bit. I had this as another topic on Sony. Did you hear about the Crunchyroll store news? And Crunchyroll's a very big place where you would normally get anime Blu-rays.
The subscription thing, right?
You have to pay for a
So
subscription to
here's the
Crunchyroll
thing:
to access it.
I didn't hear about this from anyone but you, and I don't actually know what's happened to the Crunchyroll store.
So Crunchyroll store it was originally a different store. It was called Right Stuff Anime. This is where you can get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of Japanese anime Blu-ray discs, a lot of figures, and they were often cheaper there. It was actually a really, really great store. I've used it a fair number of times back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then Crunchyroll bought it out. And at first I was like, okay, they folded it in. Now you can actually access that store from the Crunchyroll app. Crunchyroll has their entire inventory. And then here's a saga you know about.
Mm-hmm.
Remember these books? How I was having an entire crash out saga about how
Yes.
this is on huge back order. I've got this volume now and not volume 2.
Yeah.
Well, that's becoming a widespread thing on Crunchyroll, where for some reason their anime Blu-ray and light novel inventories are just not coming into stock often, and things are going on huge back order, and in some cases orders are being straight up canceled with
Mm-hmm.
no plan to resupply that inventory. So alarm bells are starting to go off that Crunchyroll is really scaling back its store. It's becoming a really shitty service as far as actually getting any anime like source material or physical material. And then about a month ago, it was announced that Crunchyroll store was no longer just a store you could buy from. Now you need a subscription, but not just any subscription. I have the base subscription to Crunchyroll that we use for the channel. You need the tier above that. It's not the base tier, it's a tier above that tier that you need to
Mm-hmm.
have to even purchase something on their store. They're basically doing a Costco thing where you have to pay to access anime sales, and their store has already been shitty in the first place. So that's what's going on with Crunchyroll. Now, couple that with the fact that if you want to have these physical copies of anime, knowing that these anime are disappearing from Crunchyroll, you can't even buy them without subscribing to Crunchyroll, apparently.
Yeah, and then all of this compounding on the fact that you're currently trying to watch Initial D First Stage, which is just not available anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Here's the thing, I don't pirate anime a whole lot anymore, so I like that's the sad thing is that like sort of because of Funimation and High Dive and Verve and Crunchyroll and for at least the last 7 years I've always had access to someone else's subscription or like a subscription to those services. I kind of, for the large part, have stopped using any piracy sites, right? At least I haven't really properly used probably like anime pirating sites in like probably 3 or 4 years at this point. And so I haven't been paying as much attention to them as I should have been. In terms of like checking the sites that I used to use very often and seeing what's still up and what's down and that sort of thing. Because I haven't really needed to. For the large part, most of what I want to watch is either available or I know where to get it or I have a copy of it, right? Um, but it was kind of jarring, like going looking for Initial D and kind of going down the mental list of like all the sites that I used to be able to use and just coming up completely and utterly blank, right? Across all of them. Just site after site after site after site tried, nothing, right? Like nothing available, nothing to find, nothing official, nothing I can pay for, nothing I can digitally download, nothing I can do anything about, which feels actually quite unpleasant because if a series like if this could happen to a series like Initial D, right? What does that say about something like maybe Prince of Tennis or Katekyo Hitman Reborn? Neither of those were as wildly popular as Initial D was, and they're both long-running older shows, and I love both of those shows. Do I need to go out and find digital copies of them right now and make sure that I have those copies? Because it seems like they're the sort of thing that is on the chopping block for this new system, you
It
know?
was always said that the best way to drive traffic away from piracy sites was to make the service more convenient to use than the piracy sites.
Hmm.
And I feel like they were so close to getting it to work, but it must not have been profitable or something because suddenly it feels like they undercut the piracy sites. And then as soon as the piracy
I want to
sites
say,
were less
like,
used, they started killing them.
but the height of it was Verve.
Mm-hmm.
Like Verve it was the equivalent of a gold standard for anime streaming from the last decade. Like Verve was fantastic because Verve was actually a collaboration between I think 6 different catalogs. I remember seeing it was originally like 6 different catalogs. So you had a massive amount of stuff on Verve and it was one subscription that you could get and I think it was pretty reasonable. It was like $14 for like all the stuff on it. Um and then Verb just started splitting off and disappeared, and everything's been downhill. It's genuinely that like as soon as these companies decided to just split off and make their own services, as soon as they thought they had enough inventory to split away from something like Verve, which probably kept them all somewhat self-regulated as to like how much they could charge given what Verve was charging and what was accessible on it, then they were able to just jack their prices, lower their catalog, and watch people scramble.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really, really bad right now as far as just accessibility of anime is going.
It's catastrophically bad.
All right, I'm gonna make sure not to double up on on the other little headlines, the smaller topics here too much, and some of the stuff we did end up going over as part of the knick-knack crash out topic. Uh, but I have some little Type Moon headlines here. So FGO's download campaign is coming up, and with that, the free ticket and the Pure Prism infusion. That's going to be great
Yep.
for you on a number of of fronts. First off,
I'm really sitting here tied though on that ticket now though.
like,
I'm
oh,
I'm really I'm really doubting
like
my
you were going
choice.
strong on the Dioscuri for a minute there, but now you're like, oh, but Nito Alter.
It's not even but Nito Alter, it's ooh, Nito Alter. That's a rough one for me. Like logistically I can in theory make do with some of the sabers that I have now. Like I can grand Satanta, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a new saber.
But you also don't need an Avenger either.
No,
Is sort of the
no.
other side of that.
Te- Technically, I'm at a point where I don't desperately need anything that's on the ticket
Yeah,
more than anything else out of what's actually available, you know?
You have Castoria. Everything's usable in the game now.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Um, we also have the event coming up, Minor Toria.
no, that's actually the one after
No,
that. The next
Minor
one's
Van
actually
Gogh.
that's actually the next event after the next one.
Oh,
I remember I know we talked about this last night, but I remember that I was actually wrong about that. The next one's actually the Causeway
okay.
Drop event, and then after that
Okay.
it's Minor Van Gogh.
Okay. I care very little for Khazra Drop, but I will be happily and eagerly awaiting Minor Van Gogh.
And what?
Yes. And that.
Um, another little bit of a thing, and this is pretty relevant to us. Remember all those times during the Mihoyo off the shelf where you're like, I don't like this isn't anything as a story. I just hate reading it in visual novel format. You know what got announced recently?
Oh no.
Mihoyo is being adapted into 3 different novels. One of them's already out in Japan.
Oh. Which
So
one is Mahoyo?
the Witch on the Holy Night.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was that first visual novel I had you go through. So like
Sorry,
obviously,
I need
given
titles
your
sometimes.
given your bold statements about the format from before, once these things are properly translated, I'm probably just going to give them to you either one at a time or all 3,
Fair.
just to see how it compares to you or for you. Especially because this is like our one
Yeah.
major example of a novelization of a Type Moon visual novel, as opposed to just giving you the script.
Fair. Yeah, that makes sense.
As another bit of little Mihoyo news, this is less relevant to you now because you have a Switch. So if I had really, we're going to test it with Tsukuhime, but it's a little bit more of an accessible format to you than having you click on the PlayStation was. But there is yet another accessible format that might be available to Tsukuhime in the future that's going to be available to Mihoyo by the end of this year. In all regions, or at least it's there is an English. The English translation is available on this. They're dropping a mobile and Android and iOS version of the Mihoyo visual novel. So very accessible and probably going to be one of the given app pricing. It's probably going to be a little bit more of a budget price compared to the console version.
Fair. Sometimes I forget that you have to pay for apps. Sometimes I have so few apps that are games that aren't just gotcha microtransactions that I forget that that's an option in mobile gaming.
Dakota, you don't need a certain number of grands to play the part 2 finale. You might need to do the caster grand, but you might not even need to do that. You actually might be able to just go into the finale with 0 grands if you really wanted to. It's the after time, the post finale stuff, where there some of the story, at least that first story chapter after that, requires you complete 2 of the grand final fights.
But that's a long ways out, so we will get there when we get there. That is not
Yep.
a concern right now. That's at least 6 months out, at minimum. You know? Like,
Yes.
I've got plenty of time to work on the few servants I already know that I'm gonna grand, like Estrella, like Castoria, you know? Because I'm not completely lacking in servants that I know I'm going to grant. I have at least a couple of them already. So it's just a matter of getting them up that high.
As a final little bit of thing, this is just because there's a major Type Moon project that was announced that will have an impact on the channel, albeit a very minor one. We actually have a new Melty Blood game coming out in early next year. So either buy next updates, or if it launches a little later in the year, the updates after that. There's probably going to be a wave of Melty Blood things added to the updates video between like Shion, Mash, Ushiwakamaru if she's back, and then Dantes if he's back. We already know Mash is back, so that'll be something to look forward to in updates. Just wanted to throw that
Mm-hmm.
out there. That's kind of it for the Type Moon headlines, at least the ones I thought had a real effect on either Seki or the channel, or that Seki would find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Uh, I yeah. Yeah, that's kind of it for the Type Moon stuff, you're right.
I mean,
Ugh.
I sometimes I think you keep up with the gaming news, even if I don't tell you about it. The Type Moon stuff, though, I feel like either I or the Discord have to bring it up to you.
Yeah, general gaming stuff I'm getting a little bit better on. I am not like I'm not shocked at all that they're releasing the updated visuals for the Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt. Because what were they gonna do? Put out songs of the past in modern graphics and then leave the rest of the game the way it was? No. I knew that they were going to put a port that would make the whole game look the same,
And
right? Once Songs of the Past comes out. Because
I'm really
The
glad.
Witcher 3 has already released multiple ports to improve the quality of the game graphics. Like they did one when PlayStation 5 came out. They did one like on the new generation of graphics cards on PC. Because I remember, because they give them to you for free if you have like the definitive edition.
But this
And
one
this
is
one's going
being
to be
fully
free as
marketed
well.
as a full remaster, and I'm glad they went the whole
Yes.
Skyrim special edition thing, where it's like, oh, if you have the old version, yes, it's a
Yep.
new version that's going to be released separately, but you're just going to get it for free.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought they would do something like this anyways, just because of the whole Songs of the Past thing. I am still, understandably, I feel salty that we're getting a fucking Witcher 3 expansion now rather than them focusing on Witcher 4 or even Witcher 1 because the expansion is made in collaboration with the studio that's currently supposed to be working on Witcher 1. And I know that they're having to rewrite that game from the code up. But you could focus on rewriting that from the code up.
My thought here is either it's going to be really good and they've really squandered their resources on it, or it's going to be not that good and it doesn't live up to the previous expansions.
Yeah.
Because the
I
previous
mean, it
expansions, like some of
looks.
gaming's all-time
Yeah.
expansions.
Yeah, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine are actually stunning. To be fair, the new trailer with the visuals looks fantastic. But to be honest, with the port that came out once PS5 came out, honestly, The Witcher 3 really looked good anyways.
Now it's going
Like
to be
they haven't
funny when
really.
it'll be fucking hilarious when the Witcher 1 remake comes out. You have the Witcher 3 remastered, and then Witcher 4 drops, and then there's just Witcher 2 being the redheaded stepchild.
And I'm really struggling with Witcher 2 as well. Well, the Witcher 3 is a remaster with the gameplay and system in the same way that the new Black Flag is a remaster, you know? Is that the content of the game is staying the same. They're just updating basically every other part of it. Um, which, yeah, no, good for them. I mean, I know Black Flag, so that came out recently. I actually haven't heard much about Black Flag, but it came out pretty close to around when I left, and I definitely wasn't keeping up with gaming news after I was in Europe. But I know I had a lot of friends who were very, very excited for the Black Flag remaster because it was supposed to fix a bunch of like the gameplay issues that have always made the game a little tedious to play. Like, not that that game isn't beloved, because Black Flag is one of the most beloved entries in the whole franchise, but there were certain things that made its gameplay a little bit tedious. And fixing those is a real like benefit and boon. So I really did plan to get I do plan to get a new copy of Black Flag. Unfortunately, they re-released it for a whole new price. I think it's $60.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the standard method of remaster. Like, the fact that Witcher 3 is giving it for free for people that own Witcher 3 already, that's fucking generous. I would never have expected that from a AAA company. That is,
Well,
like
and
that
I
alone should forgive
ranted.
any resource dump they threw in there.
Yeah, I ranted about this when Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out, remember? Because I thought it was ridiculous that they were charging like 69.99 for the game when it was a game that had been out for like a decade and a half. But what I will say was that in Oblivion, right, at least from what people have assured me, they actually added some new content outside of just completely overhauling the game. From everything I've heard about Black Flag Resynced, they didn't add any content. They just overhauled the whole game machine. So I don't know if I can justify a $59.99 minimum purchase, right? On a game that, yes, it looks better, but they didn't add shit.
Look, in a world where I can go onto my PlayStation 5 and buy a separate copy of The Last of Us, The Last of Us Remaster, The Last of Us Part 1, I'm not actually. I don't know if I could buy the original Last of Us or just remastered. Either way, I'm not. I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, I'm not hurt when games don't give the upgrade away for free. Because in my honest opinion, depending on how much effort that is put into the port, it's understandable. At the same time, does that mean I'm going to buy it again? That's another question altogether.
Oh, well, hang on. I just looked at Steam. Apparently, Resynced did add a little bit of exclusive new content, with some additional storylines for Blackbeard and Steed Bonnet. So they
Yeah.
added some like new content for some of the side characters.
Like,
I don't know if that justifies a whole new game price, though.
I'm not mad about. Like, I'm actually not mad about Resync the way you are, Seki, because to me that's just standard. What Witcher did was just like that is beyond. Like that's going above and beyond the pale to
Yeah.
be consumer friendly. That's like okay,
Yeah.
you're getting active brownie points for that. Not oh, you did the bare
Yeah.
minimum. The bare minimum is what Resync does, what Oblivion Remaster does. This is going above and beyond. This is like a I almost like I almost want to purchase this on Switch when it comes. I think Switch is probably I don't have a copy on Switch just to kind of be like, okay, I see you guys here.
Will the new Witcher update be coming to Switch immediately?
Witcher doesn't have a Switch 2 port. I don't know if it's coming immediately, but they are going to probably drop that update as a Switch 2 port.
Yeah, because I know Witcher One Wild Hunt is on Switch, but I also know that Switch One is, the console can handle a lot less. I remember that from Hogwarts Legacy.
Witcher 3 is on
Um,
Switch. The Switch 2
yeah,
doesn't have the port, so even though you can play Witcher 3 on Switch 2.
yeah. Int- Interesting. Okay, I'm taking a look now because CD Projekt put out a post about it. Okay, so The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Remastered. Yeah, so that will be for the Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game.
Yeah. It timed too
Yeah.
well. Usually you do these kind of remasters when you're doing when you're trying to launch it on a console, and the Switch 2 is the newest console. So it's like, yeah, if they're putting
Yeah.
out a remastered version as a separate edition, it makes sense to drop on Switch 2. I don't know if they're doing the same free upgrade thing there or not, though.
You'll be able to claim the free upgrade when Remastered launches on September 29th.
Hey, that's
So
nicer than what Nintendo's doing. Nintendo got to pay $5.
yeah, so if you are looking to get the version for Switch 2, you can pre-order it now. And then the remaster will, be available for free.
I might pick it up. Might pick that up physically, to be honest. Just get the key card.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I'll probably pick it up because the key card. I'm just got the download. I don't have that much space left on my Switch.
I actually do want a copy of The Witcher 3 on Switch, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So,
I do wonder.
do you want a little bit of a happier face to sort of this, like the digital future, like a company that's actively putting in, and this is from today, is doing a humongously like pro consumer move.
Okay.
Microsoft and Xbox are doing a what's called a disc to digital thing, where you can take a copy of games. Presumably they're Xbox games specifically, and it might only be their older catalog. It might be their newer catalog. I haven't looked into the details, but you can actually take your disc copy and gain a digital license to it using your disc, so you can actually have a copy where you don't need to use your disc to open it on your console,
Oh,
and you can
that's
have it just
nice.
on your account. Yeah, I don't know exactly how it'll work. It seems like I doubt it'll be like, oh, you can in perpetuity grab the disc and continually give yourself a copy on each individual console. But it's like one of those like, oh, if you're moving to an all digital future, this makes sense. I don't know why Sony isn't announcing the same thing, and they're already announcing the all digital future. Like, this should be a standard pro consumer thing if you're looking at an all digital future. Because what the fuck am I going to do with these discs if I were to upgrade to a new PlayStation? They're useless now.
Yeah. And that is nice. Night Zero. Um, okay. Saying the Oblivion remaster was only $60 for the enhanced edition doesn't make that valid, Dakota Doyle. Not in my opinion. Now, granted, Black Flag is $10 more expensive per version, so they start at 60 and then go up to 70. And yes, Oblivion did start at 50 and goes to 60. But that doesn't make it valid that it's only $60 for the enhanced edition.
Saki, clearly you have not been around in gaming long enough to experience the wave of PlayStation 4 ports from the PlayStation 3 and the wave of PlayStation 5 ports from the PS4 and the wave
I
of Switch
think
ports from the Wii
that's
U.
I think that's an inaccurate statement. Clearly, I have not been forced to rely on PlayStation when Steam is an option for pricing games.
But even Steam, like prior to The Witcher 3, the only example I know of like a full overhaul that's being released as a separate SKU that's also giving you a free copy if you did have the original version was Skyrim. And this was like the version of, not even the new version of Skyrim, the version of Skyrim that launched while we were in high school.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I knew that obviously when Witcher 3, right, when PlayStation 5 released, Witcher 3
Mm-hmm.
did a free digital upgrade, right, for the
Yes.
PS5. And that digital upgrade was also applicable on anything else where it could be upgraded. So
But
it's
that is a
like, I
little
get
bit
it.
different than this, because this is a full
Yeah, because it's
remaster
not
with
a
new content.
remaster, it's just digital upgrading.
Yeah, graphics up. It's like they up the scaler so that it runs in higher frame rate and has a higher
Look,
fidelity.
look. I perhaps if I perhaps if when I get Witcher 3, the new version, and I play it and I go back and I play the original, right? And I think that there's a validity of difference enough to justify $60,
Oh, I don't
then
think you
I
will.
will admit that there's going to be that it's a valid price. But
Here's
well,
here's
yeah, Morrowind remaster when, right? I've actually played Elder Scrolls Morrowind, so release the remaster of Morrowind. I'll play it, and then I'll tell you whether I think spending $60 on a re-release is worth it.
here's the truth of it. I'm not even gonna say you're wrong about your reservation because I don't think you're gonna play Witcher 3 and be like, it's totally worth the upgrade if you were to pay for it separately. I don't think you're gonna say that because it's not. It really
Well, I
isn't.
mean, I do have to buy it for Switch,
Yes,
so
but
unfortunately, I will be shelling out the money to buy it for Switch.
like the truth of it is the gaming community is just whipped and it's just the way it always has been. It's just like there was never that there this isn't like they went pro consumer to not pro consumer. This has been a standard practice of here's the new version, buy it at full price since like the SNES games, or at least on the NES that got like a newer version on the SNES of that basically that same gaming with a super name slapped in front of it.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I am curious about, the Songs of the Past. Is Songs of the Past on Switch going to require an additional purchase?
Shouldn't.
Hmm. Okay. It's listed separately, so it's a totally separate listing that's supposed to be released next year, so
Because the
just
Witcher 3 is already
curious.
out on Switch. It's just not the
Yes. But Songs of the Past is the new DLC that's coming out. So I'm curious to see if they'll charge for that. Like an additional couple dollars or something.
they normally advertise around that if that was going to be a difference in the Switch port versus the other ones. They'd have had that
I
in the marketing.
Yeah, well, I haven't really looked at the marketing for it because I was pissed about it.
Like, does this port itself include the new
No,
content?
so
Like
the
the new
port does
content,
not include Songs of the Past. The port only includes the original two.
it's just a
Um,
upgraded version of the original too.
yeah. Okay, so Songs of the Past does not have a final price yet, but speculation says they'll probably be between $20 and $30.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
Songs of the
not on the
Past
Switch
will
version.
be a separate paid purchase. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And that's
That's
the real
reasonable.
version.
If it's a whole new DLC, that's reasonable.
Given if it's 20-30 bucks, given The Witcher's
Yeah.
track record with DLC, it better be a good
Yeah.
DLC.
Well, I mean, you know, Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone were record-breakingly good.
They're all
So,
timers. So like,
yeah.
I'm not saying their track record doesn't prove that they can pull off DLC that's worth 20 to 30 bucks. I'm just
Yeah.
saying they better pull it off again.
It's really funny that you say pull off DLC with 20 to 30 bucks when I'm sitting here laughing at the cost of Assassin's Creed Valhalla expansions, because I'm pretty sure the DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla starts at $40.
Okay, here's the difference: when the game first launches, sometimes they're like, "Oh, it's $40." You get this little like 4-hour extra thing, and then we throw in a bunch of costumes and some horse armor. Oblivion.
Yeah.
That's the standard overpriced DLC model. But then you have things like Witcher, where it's like, no, these are basically like smaller released Witcher games that you're just playing through the original game. Or like Xenoblade does that too, where it's like, oh, this is a pretty premium DLC thing. This is basically another game in itself, but it is a little bit pricier than if I were to
I was
go
gonna
buy
say
like a
because
$12 course pack for Mario Kart.
well, because base price of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, right, is $59.99. Dawn of Ragnarok was $39.99 on release, and then they also had the Siege of Paris and Wrath of Druid, which are both $25.99. So to buy the total game is like massively expensive. Like the DLC costs more than the original base game.
Does this new remaster come with the DLC?
So for The Witcher,
Yeah.
yeah, the original two. Yeah, you get Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone. They couldn't skip it because they don't sell a version of The Witcher 3 that doesn't include those anymore.
Okay.
Because the only version of Witcher 3 that you can purchase is the Witcher 3 like definitive version. That's the only version that's available for purchase anymore, and definitive version includes both DLCs.
And the non-definitive version is just not on PC, and it's on consoles that don't have online stores anymore.
It's not on consoles either. You can only get the original non-DLC version if you purchased it like 6 years ago.
Well, it's not on
Before they released the
it's
definitive.
on the old consoles.
Yeah. Like you could only get it if you purchased it before the definitive edition came out. And to be honest, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt with the two DLCs included, the definitive version, is only $60.
Yeah.
And between Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone, I mean, you add like almost, I think it's like 100 hours of extra content. So, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. I say, even though I paid $5.99 for both my PlayStation and my PC copy of the definitive edition. Should have snatched it up for Switch when it was like $5.99 on sale. And I didn't. And now I regret it because it's not going to go back on sale for $5.99 now.
Not for years.
But it was. But it was at one point. I remember it.
Seki, I want to field to you a really, really out there topic. I want to get your thoughts on this as someone basically uninvolved with this part of this franchise.
Oh no.
Pokemon.
Okay.
So, Pokemon, and this is not a feature I've really shown you to in great detail. Pokemon has had a bit of a fun aspect to a lot of its older games, like going back to the DS and the Game Boy Advance, where you can actually bring pretty much all of those Pokemon all the way up to whatever the most recent games were. Like if you caught something in
yeah, the porting.
Yeah, you caught something in Fire Red, I could send it to Diamond and Pearl and send
I've heard of that.
all the way
Yeah.
up to the 3DS and the Switch. At a certain point, it stopped being built into the games though, and started to become an online subscription service you had to pay for. It was like $5 a year.
Still not worth it. Okay.
I paid it every year.
Nope, not worth it. If it was free originally, not worth it.
But after a while, when the 3DS servers shut down, that original Pokemon Bank service ended up being continued even after the 3DS servers shut down, and it was actually made free. And combined with the fact that the Switch had a sort of free option to do a lot of this, while you lose out on some of the app's features, you can still port stuff up. You were Pokemon fans that had it or not even purchased, downloaded before the 3DS servers went down, had been able to bring things up from the GBA all the way to the Switch games for free.
Okay.
This went on for like 2 or 3 years after the 3DS servers went down.
Yeah.
It was announced that next February, The Pokemon Bank servers, the 3DS app, are being discontinued, so you can no longer bring Pokemon up
Burn them
all
to
the
the
way from the
ground.
GBS to the
And by
Switch.
that I mean Nintendo. Burn it to the ground. And by that I mean Nintendo. Burn it to the ground. Now, it's if it's a free service, I get it. Um it's unfortunate. I think that's, but I think that's like a massive amount of like upkeep that you have that they're running, right? Just to keep players happy. And I actually think it's impressive that they even bothered to keep it running this long, because I'm going to be honest, what I would have done if I was Nintendo was after the 3DS server shut down, right? I probably would have given people like a year porting things to the Switch and then announced like a closure within like 365 days, given everyone a deadline, and just told them this is as far as you can port, and then after that you're done, because we can't do that anymore. So they've been, in I do think, in my opinion, they've been more gracious than they really need to be, like
For a service like this that's
logistically.
as niche as it is. Like, I use the
Yeah,
service, so I am
yeah,
amongst the affected because I have it downloaded. Remember what I said? You had to have had it downloaded before the 3DS servers went down.
yeah. I mean,
Meaning, this is
what I
not
would
a
have done was I would announce it a year in advance on the 3DS servers, let people move things forward, give them like a year on Switch, and then I would have closed it out. You
the
know?
fact they kept it going like 2 or 3 years after that is
Yeah,
generous. But
yeah.
my personal feeling here is I kind of get it. The games that this connects to are no longer accessible. It's over $100 to get a used copy of any of those games
Yeah.
from the GBA to the DS. At least the 3DS might be a little better, but it's still rough. Um, the actual service, you have to have a 3DS with it already downloaded on it, and you
Hmm.
have to have a Nintendo account that links to your current Switch account.
So new
So
people aren't joining this.
the only people that were using this were people that have been able to use this entire time, and who's like,
Hmm.
a large hubbub was like, "Oh my god, I won't be able to bring forward my classic team." And my thought here is, I brought forward my classic team a year ago. You've got months to
Yeah,
bring forward your classic team. It's not, realistically, this isn't
yeah.
creating the bubbles people think it is. Those bubbles have already existed unless you were one
No.
of the old fans that already had access to this shit.
No, hot take that's gonna piss off that subsection of people that are pissed about this. You had your time, get over it. This was a free service that they provided you for years longer than they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. Like you were only entitled to a year's warning when the 3DS was going to shut down, and maybe 6 months on the Switch, right? A year was generous. 3 years was incredibly generous.
I
Suck
could probably
it.
give some background why the 3 years happened at all. Because when the service was originally made compatible with the Switch, not every Pokemon were actually transportable to the Switch games. The Switch games doesn't include all the Pokemon data on it anymore. It's on a game by game basis. So like, you could transport something up to the Switch and then it would just be stuck there until a game eventually came out. But now, like, pretty much every Pokemon uh is compatible to get one Pokemon due to a glitch isn't.
But I mean, once again, I still think even giving people like a year to port things up to Switch after 3DS shutdown was more generous than they needed to be. Honestly, in my opinion, I wouldn't have been pissed if they had just told you on the 3DS servers, "Hey, you've got a year. 365
Transported
days,
up,
here's the date."
they'll be
Yeah, or
usable eventually.
don't. Yeah. Like you
Yeah.
had time, you had the availability, you had the so if this is affecting you, it's because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And obviously, you didn't care that much if you didn't already do it, because this was a possibility at any point over the last 3 years. Nintendo does not have an obligation to run a server on something that doesn't work and isn't giving them any profit. Sorry, I can't be that sympathetic in that case. You had time, you had your warning.
I have one single bit of sympathy for the players. Not for, and this is because this is a Nintendo and Pokemon Company created problem. There is a specific Pokemon game that has content that basically required you transport things up from the previous generations. So now that that service isn't usable, that content, if you go to replay that game, is completely inaccessible. It is like the most niche minute piece of content in the world, but it is still content that's now going to be effectively lost content so long as that game remains on the 3DS and only the 3DS. And replaying old games, that is a thing people do. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, I
it should
get
never
that,
have
but
been tied to an online service in the first place. And even if and when it was, it shouldn't have had content tied to it. But that's a
well,
Nintendo and
logistically,
Pokemon Company blunder, not a player blunder.
I don't think that's a reasonable thing to expect, given that we've got a lot of games that are starting to disappear because they're tied to online servers and those
Yep.
servers are having to shut down. I think that that's just the tragic like nature of video games, right? If your video game connects to an online server, inevitably at some point that server is going to shut down and you're going to lose content. Nobody's keeping their servers up forever. Not with server costs. Not unless like people are gonna keep their servers up as long as it is profitable for them to do so. And I do not blame them for dipping when profitability dips. I'm not gonna expect a company to run a server at a loss just for the 5 people who want replayability. Suck it. Give
Yeah.
them a warning. Give them a year. You know, make it an option that they can host a private server if they want, and they want to pay for it themselves. But I'm not actually going to expect a company to host a non-profitable server.
I'll say this explicitly isn't a all like this isn't like you buy Call of Duty. Oh no, I can't play the multiplayer mode when those servers go down. This is a single player
Mhm.
game primarily. I do on some level put the problem on Pokemon, but that problem was not when the server shut down. It was when they included content that required an online connection in a single player campaign to begin with.
Mhm. Yeah.
To me, that's where things were kind of messed up. Um, as Dakota Noah, I see you there. They can make private servers, and that is something that they've done for the DS games. The DS games have had content that was restored through private servers. They have not figured out private servers for the 3DS games. It's had to be like full private apps, basically.
I'm sure somebody will figure it out, or they'll
Hopefully,
port it.
eventually.
Yeah.
That's sort of the other wrinkle to this. A lot of people suspect that the reason, or like what they're going to be doing, sort of in exchange for that, is they're trying to bring everything to the Switch, where the Switch can instead host the full functionality. Since the Switch seems to be a much more future forward ecosystem. Like the Switch is compatible. The Switch store is the same store as the Switch 2 store is in theory the same store as whatever they're going forward with because gaming is becoming the smartphone market.
Yeah, I'm
So
not that.
it's like all these online things that are being lost will eventually be restored when the Switch ports come.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just a little tangent. I wanted to get your opinion on it a little bit as a complete outsider who has never and likely will never engage with this specific part of the franchise.
Yeah. No, I don't know if my response was what you expected, but in this case, I'm actually on the side of Nintendo shutting it down.
No, I didn't. My response isn't like the oh dear God, Nintendo, you're terrible for shutting this down. I just wanted to get a perspective of. I figured you might be a little less charitable. You surprised me more when you were like, "Burn it down." I was like, "What the fuck?" That's a little harsh.
Look, if they're discontinuing something that like people are paying for, burn it to the ground. But if it's a free service, that's their prerogative. They didn't have to offer it. I can't complain about something that's free the same way I can complain about something that costs money.
There's a few games like that where the servers are still on, even though it's the game is, for all intents and purposes, done being having any development put into it. Destiny 2 and Star Wars Battlefront 2 are two games like that that come to mind. All right, and Seki, can I share with you a funny news article? Oops,
Sure. What are you gonna send it to me on?
I'll send it to you on Discord since I actually no, I'm
Okay.
gonna send it to you on. Hang on, guys. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
you
have
might wanna
to
you might
hide.
wanna not pop stuff up on your screen in front of everyone.
Yeah. Give me a second. You guys aren't gonna see my display for a minute. You can look at Alice Kuonji there. Okay. Oop. Wrong one. I did not actually switch that over. There you go.
Bold of you to assume I'm gonna be able to see shit.
let's see. Where is that stupid article? Okay, and yeah, I can Discord it to you if I'm keeping this, if I am hiding our faces in the screen from people for a minute. Okay. Actually, I could just send it to a Discord chat. It's just an article. I'll send it to the gaming chat.
Okay. Send it somewhere.
It's going to the gaming chat. Okay, I can return our beautiful faces to the screen. So, do you see the name of the article and the link versus the name of the article when you actually click into it?
Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave switched to exclusive. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave switched to exclusivity actually makes a lot of sense.
So the original name for the article and the one that appears in the links because it was the original name is Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is officially unplayable for millions of gamers.
I'm sorry. That's hilarious. The
If you
concept,
actually click into the article,
like the concept, right, of anyone of anyone saying, "Oh my god, this game that's exclusive to one platform is unplayable for millions of people," is actually the funniest thing on earth, because that is just the functional model of PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, Ubisoft. So you could say the same thing about any Xbox exclusive. Any PlayStation exclusive. Do you know how many PlayStation games are unable to be accessed by millions of people because they're not on Switch 5 or PS5?
my mother is a gamer because she plays Candy Crush. She can't play The Last of Us Part 2.
The concept the genuine concept of phrasing it in that way. Oh my god.
The writer of that article is on Polygon.
Hang on. I've got an even better one. Nintendo's new edition of Mario Kart, unplayable for millions of people around the world.
People were clowning on that on social media for a minute.
My god.
For like a week or two.
I would have posted if I knew when it was happening. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I was like, buddy, it's not available on Switch 1 because it's not made for Switch 1.
So, you want to know some of the background of why Polygon is trying to pull this shit?
I've seen other Polygon articles that are just as badly labeled and then clicked into them and been just as...
But Polygon actually had all of their access cut off from Nintendo for some scandal for one reason or another. So, and they had like other headlines that for Nintendo that are also like, that's blatantly trying to clickbait people that are very, very angry at Nintendo right now. You're really trying to make your bucks off the fact that, especially early on to the Switch 2's lifespan, there was a lot of negative press around Nintendo.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the concept of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like that predicates, like, to phrase it in that way, you predicate the idea that it was going to be available to all these millions of people.
Yeah. I just had to share that little bit of joy in my life with you.
Yeah.
So, we're almost through all the little topics I had here. I guess next up, we've already gone over the Crunchyroll store changes. I'll skim over this. They announced Strange Fake Season 2 again, because they kind of announced it at the end of Season 1, but they announced it again.
I'm
I don't
looking
know.
forward to the first episode in November of 2027, and the episode after that in
In
April of
2028?
2028, and the rest of it in 2029. I'm
Let's
very excited for
go!
that.
First part is it actually feels like a realistic timeline. Um, Moving on from Strange Fake being strange and fake. There's
It's
another
fake
thing.
news.
Other thing I'm going to quickly gloss over, just because I'm sure if I asked for anime headlines from people, they'd mention it. Kingdom Hearts is getting an anime.
I did see that.
It's
Did you
not the
see the what's the Sora's? That's the main character of Kingdom Hearts, right?
yes.
Did you see the Kingdom Hearts recession indicator meme?
No, I didn't. Are we in a
Oh,
Kingdom Hearts
Sora.
recession?
Yeah, look at if you look at Sora's shoes. Hang on, I'm gonna find it.
Oh god, I'm actually familiar with most of the Kingdom Hearts titles, so this ought to be funny.
I'll find it. I'll find it. It's gonna be so. It's a joke about like how his shoe size is getting smaller and smaller. Not like physically, but like his shoes are no longer like big and bulky or whatever. Oh, here it is. Copy image. So this went a little bit viral, like not massively viral, but a little bit viral recently with like the caption recession indicator. I put
Oh
it in
boy.
memes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's buying smaller shoes. Dear God. The economy is not what it used to be.
Yeah, basically. I just thought you'd find that was funny.
Okay, the last little anime topic headline I wanted to ask you, because I'm sure you've probably got a lot more commentary than I do on this. The two One Piece films that were announced. Did you not hear about this?
Uh, when was it?
A couple days ago.
Oh, I might not have. Let me take a look.
Seki, One Piece news.
Oh no, I did hear about these. Okay. Sorry. I did. I did. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of One Piece fans have some commentary on these two films specifically.
Yeah. I'm more excited for God Valley, but that's mostly just because we know more about God Valley than bad yet. Um God Valley I'm actually quite excited for. But God Valley is like this, so they're taking like a flashback from like the current arc and then like showing us like the whole movie, but like it I can't discuss all the reasons I'm excited for it yet with you.
Well, from my understanding, God Valley is it's a canon movie
Yeah, see ya,
because it's
Jens.
see ya.
Yeah, God Valley
Uh,
is going to be telling the story of Rox D. Zebek, and the battle at the God Valley, right? Like as the titular name would suggest. Unfortunately, I cannot yet discuss
go
this
into
with you.
details, but
I see. I need you to get through Wano.
I
Then
can
we can
tell
discuss it.
I can tell we're really taking advantage here of the fact that One Piece has gone seasonal.
Yeah.
So now they can take an arc and be like, this is a movie now.
Well, and to be fair, keep in mind the arc, like, that's the thing. They're not technically taking an arc and making a movie out of it the same way that they did with Alabasta.
Mm-hmm.
So the movie is going to be expanding on a flashback. So the movie is actually going to contain original material that we have not seen yet in the manga or the anime. But it's going to be, you know, material that is the subject of a flashback in the current arc, right? Not a flashback that's currently going on, but a flashback that's already been told to us.
Has the flashback
It's,
already
it's
been shown in the anime, or has this not been covered in the anime yet? And is this replacing that flashback?
Now you're asking me to.
I'm sorry, I'm asking you to One Piece fan. One Piece fan.
I know. Yes. Yes. I want to say yes. Yeah. Last summer.
So the flashback has been seen in the anime, is just expanding on that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it was literally in 2 episodes of the anime. So,
What
yeah.
arc? What arc is this relevant to?
So it's happening in Elbaf, but it's going to be retroactively important to everything since we heard about Gold Rogers and met Garp.
I was gonna say, like, if I just have to catch up on catch up through Wano, then, like, maybe I can catch up in time to watch this movie with you. But now if you're telling me it's in
You can.
Elbaf.
Well, no. It's so the flashback is happening in Elbaf. All of the stuff like the topics of the flashback are not going to spoil anything for Elbaf for you.
What, spoil
Like
anything for
this.
Wano?
Yes.
Okay, I guess I gotta catch up to Wano before that movie comes out.
Yes. Yes.
Although I didn't, not that I didn't watch Red and know the entire crew up till now through watching Full
Yeah.
Red.
Yeah.
I guess other than God Valley, there's also
Bad.
Bad, which I've
Yeah.
heard
Bad.
probably connects to Blackbeard.
Um, I mean, that would be the most logical thing for them to do if they're gonna make like 2 films that are based on something from the current anime and manga, that would probably be a decent idea. But I also wouldn't put it past them for Bad to be another thing like Red. Because One Piece has released a lot of like a fair amount of non-canon movies that just tell a little extra arc.
Like this might very well
Um,
be an experiment with God Valley and a traditional One Piece movie with Bad.
well, God Valley isn't even technically an experiment because One Piece has released theatrical movies before. One Piece Alabasta the Desert Princess.
Mm-hmm.
They basically readapted Alabasta into a theatrically released movie, changing just a few things, and the movie actually did pretty decent box office numbers when they released it.
On the topic of turning flashbacks into feature films, can we get like the an expanded that Sanji flashback where he's dying and starving on an island? Can we just get like an entire survival movie like made out of that?
Not until you're caught up to Wano.
Yeah. Here's a quick question I have for you. Do you think once One Piece inevitably finishes, it gets sort of the Dragon Ball treatment where it gets revived every year or two for a movie, even though the series itself is over?
No. The reason why I don't think that is because the new One Piece series is already progressing rapidly through development. The one that's supposed to like shorten it and
I forgot
you
to bring
know,
up the One Piece. It actually got like
but like we already have trailers for that, like
yeah.
full trailers. Yeah, and they look good.
Didn't they kind of like give away what the pacing would be like in that too?
Mm-hmm. A
Like
little bit, yeah. It's gonna be
was
pretty fast.
it's like what 8 to 10 episodes, but 40 minutes an episode, and
Something like that, yeah.
it's going through Baratier or something along those lines.
Yeah, something like that. Um, but yeah, so it's like I also Oda does not seem to want to do like the Dragon Ball thing where he's just spinning off movies, and Oda has maintained a lot of Oda has maintained creative control over every single game and other thing that's spun off of One Piece basically. Like Oda has been the writer on I think every single One Piece game so far, or at least one of like the consultors who like gives the final A-OK or not for the script. So I don't And he's said that he doesn't want to like write a sequel for One Piece. He doesn't want to keep like the story will be over and he will be done with it. This is not like Kishimoto, who won't stop writing, or Kubo, who won't stop writing. or like Kishimoto, who's willing to hand off the writing to someone else and then just sit and lord over it while it gets progressively worse. Or Kubo, who was told to stop and refuses to stop. But yeah. Have you seen the list of like the castings and the list of new characters for the Alabasta season for the live action?
I have not looked at the casting. No. Does it look good?
Looks good to me. They've released the title card preview and everything, so
I'm looking forward to it. I like the One Piece live action. Jank, I don't
yeah.
I think the jank is part of the charm.
Yeah. I think it's not jank. It's beautiful.
That's a way of describing Wapple.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of other things that are beautiful, let's start with a W. How's that for a transition?
Wattpad.
Wattpad.
I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Okay, so what the fuck is going on with Wattpad? I know they had drama recently, and I know something's going on. I don't know what.
So what the drama is that a couple of weeks ago, Wattpad put out an update to their terms of service, right? Talking about what was allowed to be written on the site and what wasn't, right? And keep in mind, even though people put fanfiction.net and Wattpad in the same category as AO3, they're not. Both fanfiction.net and Wattpad are for-profit websites. They advertise, and Wattpad actually has contracts with a lot of TV producers and authors and stuff like that. Like regular books come out on Wattpad, and there's subscriptions and all sorts of stuff. So Wattpad and fanfiction.net are not what AO3 is. They are not archives that are meant to store everything and discriminate on nothing, right? With the rule of just tag it and don't read, right? Like, you understand that about fanfiction.net and Wattpad. Now, do you remember the fanfiction.net purges?
Yes, I actually do.
Yeah, so there were two of them, right? You probably remember the one from like 2009, more famously, which was the Smut Purge. There was an earlier one in the early 2000s, right? And it was actually pretty much the same thing. It was fanfiction.net first purged in the early 2000s a lot of what they called pornographic content, which really means smut in this case, because smut is the literary equivalent of pornography, right? Pornography is the media equivalent of smut. So they had originally purged a bunch of it from the site to make it more palatable to advertisers, because fanfiction.net is a site that runs for profit, right? And in 2009, there was another massive purge. But in 2009, the big thing about the purge was that rather than be a lot more open about what they were doing, a lot of people woke up and just found thousands of fanfics deleted, because they were, R-rated, right? And then we were told, oh, you can't write porn, you can't do that. And that's when, like, the citrus scale really became a thing, because you had to get around, like, writing and defining things as certain ratings. So you use the citrus scale.
It was lemons.
It was lemons. It was lemons. It was limes. It was lemons. It was grapefruits. I use this system to rate my personal fanfiction spreadsheets that I know, because I grew up on this system. But anyways, so Big Purge is very famous in the fandom community. It's one of the biggest reasons why there were mass exoduses off fanfiction.net in the 2010s to AO3 and to Wattpad and LiveJournal and other services that hadn't been as popular before that, right? Because fanfiction.net was one of the largest conglomerated fanfiction sites, right? Yes. Up to that point. Because there were a lot of like individual fanfiction sites, right? You could go to like Harry Potter fanfiction.net, right? Which only hosted Harry Potter fanfiction and so on. So there a lot of stuff like that, but fanfiction.net was the big one. So AO3 is an archive. AO3 functions differently. AO3 is not a for-profit organization. It's run entirely based on donations and volunteer support and work. All of their donation drives go directly towards paying legal fees and paying server costs and funding volunteers and the other support workers that are used to keep it running. This is all controlled by the OTW, the Organization for Transformative Works. And the whole point of AO3, right, is that this is an archive. Right? The difference between a for-profit website and an archive is that an archive does not judge the content that goes on it. In technicality, you can write anything and put it on AO3 so long as it is not directly telling someone to go to another site and spend money, which is illegal for fan fiction, and so long as it is not actually copyrighted and you are profiting off of it, right? Like
So
those
if
are
it's
basically
not illegal, it stays.
Yeah, basically, if the publishing, like the writing and publishing of it is not illegal, it stays. Now, obviously, that creates what a lot of people would define, right, as a morally gray area, because people post child pornography, right, like child smut on AO3. There's torture porn, for lack of a better word. There's all sorts of fucked up shit on AO3, right? And so the biggest, thing that AO3 has done to, deal with this being an archive is the tagging and filtering system, right? If you go to AO3, the social construct when you go on AO3 is that this is an archive. There are things here that you do not want to see. Those things are tagged, right? And because we do not criminalize them, people are willing to tag them so that you can filter them out. Don't like, don't read. Dead dove do not eat, right? If it says that is in the tags, it's going to be in the story. So just filter it out. Remove it from your view. It's very simple, right? It is and it is a very, very simple thing to do on AO3, right? Now, Wattpad is a hellscape. I say as someone who has tried to use Wattpad, I've tried to use Wattpad just in the last 2 years. I never had a Wattpad phase. I went straight from fanfiction.net to AO3. Wattpad is possibly one of the worst websites I have ever tried to navigate in my entire life. Genuinely gave me anxiety. Hated it so much. But it is a really big platform for posting fanfiction, right? And famously, there have been multiple fanfictions off Wattpad that have been made into movies, like the Harry Styles one that got a series of movies on Netflix. I think it's like 3 movies based off the same fanfiction. So Wattpad updated their terms and conditions, or not terms and conditions, but like what they allow on their website. And the problem is sort of in the middle of like how they updated it, because they didn't. I think the way that it's been described by the site of Wattpad itself, right, is they haven't actually explicitly changed the wording that was already there. They're just elaborating upon the wording that was already there. Now, the reason why it blew up is because in the way that the wording has changed, right? So now, for example, let me pull up a thing. So let's say, banned / not allowed, right? This is where it changed. So banned / not allowed. The first bullet point under that now says pornographic content. Content created primarily for sexual arousal, right? Now you see how that might be a problem, right, for people who are writing
on here.
Yeah. And the problem is because we love fan fiction. Fan fiction can have beautifully complex plots. It can be extensively long. It can be wonderfully written fluff and romance. Porn without plot is a tag for a reason. Like, smut is a pillar and a mainstay of the fan fiction community.
What people
and
don't
to
realize
put
about the fan fiction community is not that it's risking these original properties. No, it's not risking those with its existence. What it is risking is the grocery store bottle stripper section.
Yeah. And to be fair, they do go on to clarify that this is sort of like not just this, right? There are other parts of this. So the second bullet point says they are banning any sexual content involving minors. So Wattpad maintains a zero tolerance policy for CSEM. and they will report anything directly to relevant law enforcement, right? So if you write any sort of sexual encounter between individuals under the age of 18, it is banned on the website, right? Which was never not banned on Wattpad. Wattpad is not an archive. You were not allowed to write about children fucking each other anyways. This is not actually new. I think where people are getting a little iffy about this is they're like, well, what about when you're writing like 16-year-olds and 16-year-olds or a 17-year-old and a 17-year-old? And I think here you're going to have a lot of like, there's just going to be a lot of like case by case gray area by the staff, I think, in judging some of this shit,
Well,
which is going to
gray area that pretty much all like a lot of media is in the
all
modern day coming under
for-profit
this.
sites. Yeah.
Even like outside of for profit, like
Yeah.
like story writing, like you get into like
Yeah.
obviously manga sees a lot of this same like
Yeah.
where does this line go? You get a lot of it in film, even like do we draw the line at fucking what was it Netflix and Cuties, or do we draw the line at
Yeah.
like what was it? There was like a Zendaya high school movie which was like, oh, this is just softcore porn with these depicted teenagers.
Yeah. So the CSAM, and then it goes on to say sexual exploitation, coercion, or non-consensual acts that are glorified, right? And then sexual role play, solicitation, or messaging, which I'm assuming applies directly to users, not stories themselves, because to ban sexual role play from being written on a fanfiction website would be the height of stupidity. But I'm assuming that that goes to like the interactions between individual users on the platform, that particular rule. And then illegal sex acts in violation of applicable local and international laws, including but not limited to bestiality, necrophilia, incest, or childhood sexual exploitation, and abuse material. And just to put this into perspective, right? Keep in mind, Wattpad is not an archive. The vast majority of these things have technically been against the rules of Wattpad for the last 2 decades. They're just putting it into very, very clear writing in this at this juncture, right?
I understand wholly why Wattpad is doing this, because Wattpad is not. There's a reason why Wattpad is doing this, and it's different than when, like, say, fanfiction.net is doing this. Because fanfiction.net is a fanfiction site, first and foremost. There's not a lot going on there. There's no monetization for individual writers on fanfiction.net.
No, but there is the site's monetization on fanfiction.net, yes, which is why they did the purge.
That's for a different reason,
yeah.
But you can argue that's still like, well, that's on the site. The site, like, why are you monetizing this site? Because of necessity. Mm-hmm. That's its own sort of debate. With Wattpad, though, there's actually user monetization. It is in the same conversation as Royal Road and Web Novel as far as user monetized original works go. So it's almost like the reason why this regulation exists is because Wattpad isn't existing in the same space as fanfiction.net or Archive of Our Own. And as time goes on and user-generated content is becoming more and more a thing in the literary world, look even outside of like novels. Look at Web Novel, Webtoon.
Yeah.
It makes sense that as it's starting to become a more and more common thing, Wattpad wants to move away from and wants to create a more delineated line, like this is not allowed on this site with its fan fiction content.
Well, and I think here, so this is going to bring out something that I think I intended to talk about a couple tea times ago and we never really got to, but so you know that I've gotten into Heated Rivalry recently, right? Like in the last year or so. And Heated Rivalry has functioned, unfortunately, over the last approximately year, as sort of like someone putting a chisel on top of a fissure and then hammering it in an unfortunate way. Because so Wattpad maintains that they are doing this to update the transparency of their user agreement, right? Like the rules are not changing. It is not that these things were explicitly allowed before and are being banned now. Wattpad is also not removing all mature content in the same way that fanfiction.net attempted to, right? They are making clear what the laws and restrictions that apply to a monetized site like Wattpad, right, are going to define from here on out. And, you know, a lot of people, without really going into it and understanding what they're doing and why they're doing it, have reacted with the automatic gut opinion of, oh my god, Wattpad is banning smut. It's not. It never will, right? Um, but the reason why Wattpad is, I think, feeling the need to do things like this at this particular juncture is because over the last year, fan fiction. So fan fiction has always, up until recently, been largely a subculture thing, right? This is something that fans participate in. You like up until a couple of years ago, right? With the exception of things like 50 Shades of Grey, right, which broke out wildly, right? With the exception of a few one-off things like that, fan fiction has, for the most part, been something that you keep to yourself. You keep it in your online spaces. You keep like amongst other fan fictioners, right? And I think that's the general consensus about what fan fiction has been for a very long time. It's an in-community thing, right? Like we are not all posting our fan fiction to Twitter and looking for like it to go viral, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like fan fiction and fan art have largely been an in-community thing, but when Heated Rivalry really, really blew up, something kind of cracked a little bit in the sphere of fan fiction because Heated Rivalry blew up on like a global scale, right? Like all over the world, Heated Rivalry was blowing up. And a lot of big media outlets started picking up stories about Wattpad and fanfiction.net and AO3, right? And what they were doing was that a lot of them were writing stories that were really vilifying a lot of authors for what they write, right? They're like fictions found depicting child pornography on site where people go to read Heated Rivalry content, right? And that led to like a massive amount of people on Twitter and in the larger internet sphere finding and starting to harass people over fan fiction, right, on AO3 and other websites. And that's been an ongoing problem for the last year or so, right? I've been experiencing this personally, not through harassment, but in that I go to AO3, right, and I want to look back to my old fan fictions that I really liked reading, and I'll go back, and then all of a sudden, right, I'll click into a fiction and it's been deleted, right? And there's an author's note saying, hey, due to the sheer amount of harassment I've gotten for the way that I wrote this fic, and sometimes they'll even include posts of the comments, right? And they're always from anonymous people who don't have accounts or like, brand new, a lot of them are from like new users and stuff being like, oh my God, how dare you write shit like this and post it? I'm gonna report you to the police, you like, and then calling them like disgusting names, right? Even for stuff that really doesn't deserve it. So fanfiction kind of broke containment in a generally negative way, right? Like, because it was made a laughing stock by people outside of the community, right? Like, rather than bringing forth this like creative thing and showing it to the world, people were mocking people for it. And that sent hundreds of thousands of people to go leave horrible comments on fanfictions across multiple fanfiction sites. This is not AO3 exclusive. I know authors on Wattpad were also getting massive amounts of criticism. Authors on fanfiction.net were getting massive amounts of criticism. And so, obviously that was already stirring up the community, but with this Wattpad announcement, a massive amount of Wattpad users who I think did not fully understand what was happening on Wattpad and the unique situation of Wattpad being a for-profit thing with subscriptions and actual authors migrated to AO3, right? And have been attempting to migrate to AO3. So like, for example, right now the AO3 queue is actually not instantaneous, right? Now, because it used to be, for the last couple of years, it's been almost instantaneous. It wasn't when I joined 10, 15 years ago because it was individual volunteers sending out emails, but they had updated it a few years back to send out like something like 6,000 invitations every like 12 hours or something.
It was by the time I joined, so.
Yeah, so right now the queue is like in the 6-digit numbers. There's so many people who are trying to join the site that the queue is back and it's like actively stopping people from joining immediately. And a lot of people who came over from Wattpad were, I think, not understanding the concept of AO3 as an archive and not something that monitors its content necessarily, and were very much not understanding that the social convention of AO3 is don't like, don't read. If you don't want to read it, eliminate it from your searches and do not read it. That is a choice that you are making, right? To read or not read, because it is an archive, right? It's like the Library of Congress. There's a lot of things in the Library of Congress that are written that I don't agree with. Guess what? I don't read them, right? Like there are books in the Library of Congress that I would never read in my lifetime because I don't agree with anything inside of them. Do I think that would I go on a campaign and say the Library of Congress should never hold this book ever? No, it's a book. The Library of Congress is essentially an archive, right? It's not a perfect comparison, obviously, because what goes into the Library of Congress is still controlled by the government, but it's a very close approximation of the argument I can make here, right? Don't read, right? Exclude it from your search terms. People have not been doing that. These new users coming over in droves from Wattpad and other places are not doing that. They are, I think the way that it seems like they are deliberately searching out things like child sexual exploitation and stuff like CSAM, and then deliberately finding those fics and leaving hordes of horrible comments and attempting to report the fics hundreds of times over and over. It got bad enough that AO3 actually disabled the report function for new accounts temporarily because they were getting so many reports.
It sounds like a part of this is a culture shock, and the other half of this is, what is it called? Shock farming. Like they're using it to.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it is, because then these people say, oh, I'm going to take this fan fiction, I'm going to post it on Twitter, and I'm going to try to dox you. I'm going to put your IP address there. I'm going to report you to the local police for what you're writing, right?
Outrage farming, that was the right term.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's causing a problem. I don't think it's not causing the sort of problem that's going to end AO3, right? Like, that's just not going to happen. AO3 is too big, too powerful, too beloved, right? And they maintain neutrality incredibly well. Like, they've got a team of lawyers dedicated to making sure that they maintain themselves as a non-profit archive. You know what I mean? But it is creating a rather immediate, incredibly toxic culture surrounding fanfiction, especially in fandoms like Heated Rivalry and like other like things that are really popular right now. Because these people aren't like going back to like Naruto fanfiction to lodge these complaints. No, they're coming in like new fandoms that are popular right now with people outside of fandom spaces who don't have this like learned understanding of like fan culture, where it's like fan culture is something that exists and you can choose whether or not you want to engage with different aspects of it, right? It's like shipping wars, right? Like, you can be a shipper of one ship and you do not have to be actively combating someone who ships another ship. You could choose to be. You could choose to put that negativity onto your profile, right? And genuinely hate on other people. But it's a choice you make in fandom, right? Like, much of fandom is you choose what you want to consume and what you want to view, and you enjoy those things. These people are not doing that. They're taking everything holistically and then being outraged and trying to like farm for views or other things. Because some of these people they'll take screenshots of things and they'll put them up on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, and they'll be like, oh my god, look at what I found, and that's not acceptable behavior, right? It's just not, and there are community guidelines on AO3. That's the thing, Dakota Doyle. It's just people who are coming for the purposes of doing things like this and choosing not to understand the difference between AO3 and Wattpad are not the type of people who would read community guidelines.
Yeah.
Like, this is
on the Wattpad users entirely, because I'm sure there probably was some culture shock initially. Yeah. Like, if you're that shocked by it, why did you leave Wattpad in the first place when the entire thing was they were being more strict on their rules and regulations on what could be posted?
Yeah, it's not the whole problem that's been happening for the whole last year is not to be placed on Wattpad users, like, at all. Like, yes, right now, because of the Wattpad exodus, there's a lot of buzz around Wattpad being the cause of this, but I wouldn't even attribute this to like necessarily entirely just the popularity of Heated Rivalry. In fact, these cracks that Heated Rivalry kind of like split open really started growing at their greatest extent back when COVID started, right? Quarantine. Because people had more time at home and were looking at things online, and really in like 2020, 2021, there was like a lot of people discovering fan fiction for the first time who weren't necessarily immersed in fan culture and that sort of thing.
I hesitate to get into this too far because this inherently does start touching on politics. So I'm not going to go into it too much here. And what I mean by this, this reminds me a lot of what happened with the Tumblr exodus onto Twitter.
Yeah.
Pre Elon era.
Yeah.
Pre Elon era.
Yeah. Yeah, because let me tell you, I promise you, porn is not off Tumblr. As someone who still has a Tumblr account, I promise you, it's not gone.
But it's a very similar situation where there was a moral, or not a moral panic, there was a panic created by a
Yeah.
Tumblr policy, drove a lot of its users to another platform, and those users absolutely culture shocked with that platform, leading to that platform being additionally toxic.
Yeah.
Not that Twitter has ever recovered from being that toxic or ever wasn't that toxic.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I myself would not place the blame on Wattpad users. I do think that there are individual Wattpad users who are absolutely participating in this to great extent. I've seen them bragging about it online, right? And respectfully, if you left Wattpad because Wattpad told you that they wouldn't allow CSAM on their site, why are you on AO3 looking up CSAM to post it for views? Like, if you left because of that, why are we now outraged about it here?
Are they, what is what they're trying to do here is they're trying to go and say, for all those people, look at these are the kinds of people that are fleeing the site that I use.
I'm not sure exactly. I think the other thing to note is that like a year or two, like a couple years ago, right, like 2022, 2023, there was like a massive push on TikTok and Instagram where new users were finding AO3 and they were trying to advocate and get petitions signed to have AO3 be censored and remove
I do
all
remember
like
that, actually.
explicit content. And there was like this huge like collection of like under eight like minors, right? Like people under the age of 18 with like big TikTok and Instagram followings who would go on AO3 and they were like, "Oh my god, there's porn on here." And I was like, "Well, first of all, bold of you to publicize that you have an AO3 account when I know for a goddamn fact that the AO3 guidelines require you to be 18 to sign up because I joined it under 18 and learned a lot of things I didn't need to learn. But guess what? When I was under 18, I wasn't taking those things I saw and going, look at what I found. Look at what I found. I was going, I'm not going to tell anyone what I found because I shouldn't be on here because this isn't a site I'm allowed to be on at my age." So, like, the audacity of you to join a website where you are not the required age to join and to then be outraged about what you find on there because it is adult content and to ask for that adult content to be removed is an audacity of someone who has never been penalized for being too young on a site that you should not be on. And that's its own problem. And that was all tied up in the petitions to remove mature content from AO3. So.
Look, I have two thoughts when I hear about those people. The first one, for the people that are outraged that they found porn on the internet, is, oh, you sweet
News.
summer child.
Oh, see, my first thought was, oh my god, hey, found in haystack. Like, news, water in ocean. Shower is wet.
Like, I remember, and I remember, like, even when I was way younger, like it was well known the internet was filled with porn. Like this
Rule
is not
34.
a new. This is not a new development. Like I think it was it early high school or middle school? Like there was
Yeah.
I heard a song from someone. It was like the internet's for porn. The internet's for porn. Grab your dick
Yeah.
and double click. The internet's for porn.
Yeah, like
it's
Rule
just 34. This has just been a thing forever. So congratulations, you've discovered the lifeblood of the internet.
Yeah. Also, respectfully, if you think it's just the internet, you've never walked into the adult fiction section of Barnes & Nobles.
No.
You've never walked into the contemporary fiction section of Barnes & Nobles. You've never walked into the romance section of Barnes & Nobles. I see more tits in Barnes & Nobles on men than I get described to me on AO3.
The other
like
The other major thought I have around that is like, at the end of the day, what are they actually ever going to do here? AO3 is pretty
Yeah.
legally upright. If they really have a problem with the content being posted on AO3, it's not AO3 they should go to, because AO3 is very explicitly not a publisher, not a curator. They are an archive. Their
Hmm.
only responsibility is to make sure there's nothing straight up illegal on there. If you have a problem with this morally,
Yeah.
and not to say I advocate for this blanketly, like personally, but if you have a problem with the type of content being posted on AO3 morally, speak to your government about that. Speak to your government representative about that. Raise that concern legislatively. Do I
Please
necessarily think?
don't take my AO3 away from me. I will actually commit war crimes. I will break the Geneva Convention if AO3 is taken away from me at this
I'm not
point in my
saying
life.
AO3. I'm saying if you have a problem with CSAM and the depiction of children,
Well,
or
yeah.
if you really are far more conservative than I will ever profess to being, if you have a problem with porn on the internet,
Then you've got bigger problems than AO3, let me tell you.
yeah, then talk to your legislature. Do I agree with that last part especially? Not particularly. Do I necessarily like the slippery slope that creates? Not particularly. But you know what? That's far more productive than harassing individual AO3 users that are going to pop up like fucking gnats. Even if you were to somehow
Yeah.
get one... This is what happened with fanfiction.net. Fanfiction.net does curate its works. That didn't stop porn from being on fanfiction.net.
No.
Fanfiction.net was filled with that stuff.
Well, the fanfiction.net also famously, in their terms and conditions, does not allow RPF, and yet there are entire RPF fandoms on fanfiction.net.
Like you knock down one, four more appear. It's not
Yeah.
like the only way you get this to truly stop is legally not harassing the individual users or even getting the site to take the one down.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, that's the other thing, is that, like, you know, people have put up fusses in the last 5 years saying, oh, I wish there was, like, a feed on AO3 that would just show me fics similar to the ones I've liked. Cool, make it yourself. AO3's code is all open source. Every single digit of AO3's code is and has always been open source, and you are allowed to take that code, make your own website using that code, and filter what you want to filter and create an algorithm. Guess what? AO3 has no official app, but because the code is open source, somebody went and made the archive reader, which is an app, right? It's not affiliated with AO3, but it searches all of AO3.
I think AO3 should add a funny little button. It's not curating the work, it's just adding one funny little filter. Just a button that says remove dead dove do not eat content.
Yeah, that's the exclude tag function.
Well, you can exclude it, but like for the people in the back that where it's not obvious, AO3 should have a big banner that explains what dead dove do not eat is, and have an extra little button that's easy for any user to understand that can click and it's just gone.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny. You know what function that I miss from mangafox.net that I would actually love to see on AO3? Right? And keep in mind, my experience with this from Manga Fox was pretty positive. Manga Fox, back before it changed over, like before it was taken down, used to have a button at the top of the screen called Random.
Crunchyroll used to have that for anime as well, and I'm like, why did we get rid of this?
And there was no filters you could put in. There was nothing you could do. It didn't even look at what you'd been reading. You click random, and a random page popped up. And guess what? I found some of my favorite manga by just sitting there clicking random until I saw something that I thought I liked and read it.
Look, I think it is an untapped, like, gold mine for discoverability for these like big platforms. Like, imagine if on YouTube I could just click a button that just takes me to a random ass YouTube channel, unconnected from any algorithm, or even in gaming, like take me to a random ass game.
Yeah, like genuinely, because sometimes you just don't know that you're gonna like it until you like it. You know? Like, granted, I could put as many filters on a fucking AO3 search as I want, and I'm still gonna find fics that I don't enjoy. Might as well just give me a randomizer button. I don't. AO3 will never do that, but it would be funny if they did. I would appreciate it. Me personally, based on my older experiences. Um, but yeah, I mean that's the big blow up over Wattpad right now is that like
Okay.
it's just the vocal minority that has moved from Wattpad to AO3 and has decided that their sole goal in life on AO3 is to publicize the fact that they want to report everything. Is making waves right now at this moment. Give it 2 or 3 weeks, it'll die down a little bit in the same way that like all the shit from Heated Rivalry died down after a month or two. I mean, technically they do.
So what they're
Dakota
saying there
Doyle, they
is
okay.
technically,
I was gonna say because they have the
yeah.
maturity drop down where you can just tag teen and under.
So this is where I'll say, like, there was a time where I preferred fanfiction.net, and part of it was fanfiction.net just had better default functions. Because fanfiction.net by default was like
They
K through
default to
T, and you
just K
turned
through
on
T.
M
Yeah,
and all.
yeah.
Archive of Our Own is set to all, and sometimes the
All.
filters are like they don't have enough. They should have a simplified filter option as well on some of this stuff. Not on all of it, but some of
I
it.
I disagree. I think the people who think that the including and excluding tag system is a little bit too complex and involved don't use those top like 4 filters for like rating and like gender pairing and stuff like that because those are all only like 4 or 5 options. Just select an age range and go. You know. I don't. Yeah, here's the thing. Because it's an archive, they're not going to do that. You know, like they're not going to make that a default active filter. Um, like they're not required to, and that's not the point of the site. And I also don't. I think that's in a lot of ways that's giving in. I think they in this case, I think the simplification is not necessary. I think it's actually better to require people to when they come to the site learn how to use the filters. Like just learn how to use the filter system. Um Partially because also it's not the only archive that a lot of people are going to have to use in their lives. Knowing how to use the AO3 filters made doing anything in academia so much easier for me. Like, oh my god, I could find anything on JSTOR in like 2 minutes flat.
Unfortunately, like so long as it doesn't actually impede on their responsibilities as being an archive, I probably diverge with you on that. I don't think accessibility functions are inherently wrong. I think generally speaking, so long as the accessibility functions are mostly non-intrusive and well designed, they're they're just streamlining the site's user experience.
I've got a separate problem though with the oversimplification of internet websites for internet literacy and web user literacy that I've got issues with that's unrelated to AO3 in specific but related to like just everything on the internet. I think that we're simplifying things too far in a lot of cases, and so I don't necessarily ever support the simplification of systems so long as the original system is completely functional and usable. And I do think that AO3's filtering and tagging system, honestly, is very understandable. I don't think it's actually that complex. Like, you hit filters, and then you've got all sorts of things.
I disagree with you, but I've always pretty openly disagreed with you about this. Go, you can remember that if you think back
Yeah,
there too. So, like, that's just somewhere where we don't really line up here.
there is. It's in your personal settings. If you go to your account settings, you can uncheck show me adult content without checking.
But you have to go into your account settings for that, compared to just having
No, I think technically I don't know if a baseline account has that checked.
You know how I know you have to go into your account settings for that? Because you don't even have to be logged in. Like, if you're not logged in at all, it's still going to bring up all.
If you're not logged in though, when you click into a fic that is above teen rating, you get a warning though that you have to acknowledge and proceed that the work is mature and contains mature themes and other things. So this is that warning. right? You can turn it off. I have mine turned off because I know what the fuck I'm getting into. But it's not defaulted to turned off. If you click into those mature fix, you will get that warning every time unless you turn it off. Because I'm, like I said, I'm just checking it right now and it is there. Yeah.
I'm I think unlike I'm relatively open to the idea that maybe in some regards, even as an archive, AO3 might be a little bit dated. Because you know what else I think is a little bit dated? I think JSTOR is a little bit dated. Having used JSTOR myself.
JSTOR is an experience.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, AO3 is great. It taught me how to use JSTOR. JSTOR is also very dated and can be much more streamlined for usability these days. And a
Yeah,
large part of
there
why
are
it's not is
better.
because of that ivory tower of academia and the fact that it's run by old people that don't want change.
Yeah, I very rarely end up using JSTOR these days. They're actually much better websites. But yeah, no, there is a way to make sure that there's like an automatic warning at least. Anytime you click
Yeah.
into anything that's
Like, I'm not
rated M or R.
I'm not gonna sit here and act like this is some cardinal sin of AO3, but I do think it could be a
No,
little bit better about that.
that's
And it
fair.
probably would
I
filter out
don't.
the it probably would filter out the tourists if the explicit works weren't there on the front page.
Potentially, but I don't think the AO3's I don't think it's their priority to make a change like that. Like as much as people have been making this huge deal about the Wattpad users moving over and them reporting stuff, like a week and a half ago when it first started happening, the OTW put out an announcement saying that they would not be like, you
Well,
know, caving to any outside pressure to censor their archive or anything. Like
maybe it's
the OTW has never been reactive to this sort of thing because for the large part, when this sort of thing happens, it happens on a very temporary basis, right? Like there's going to be a brief outrage, right, while the whole Wattpad thing is fresh, and within a month or two, it's going to be died. It's going to die down
see.
because the people who were just here for outrage are going to leave.
I don't really view it as caving to the people with outrage because what they're demanding is that this shit be taken down altogether, actually censored. I'm
Mm.
thinking this is more about protecting the users that are being harassed by them.
I don't no, because these people are not just randomly finding these works. They're like searching them out. Because the things they're finding, they are like searching out. This is not just whatever pops up first. This is searched content. I can say like quite confidently as someone who reads in a lot of the archives that these people are like pulling fix out of. These are not the stories that pop up on the top of your filtering, right?
But there's less room for it to happen organically. Like, yes, the people that are searching are always going to be able to search, but there's less room for like the random Wattpad 14-year-old who wanders in to suddenly be like, "Oh my god, what the fuck."
But that same Wattpad 14-year-old is going to have already made an account, lied about their age being above 18, and turned off the filter.
See,
Like, realistically, they're there for that. It doesn't matter.
but even if like they get through that, it's not that it's going to eliminate it. It's just to lightly reduce it, to put that little extra thing in place.
I disagree, Dakota Doyle. I would not like a site-wide setting that just disappears mature content from searches. That's called using the tags. Yeah, that's using the tags. That's when you hit filters, go to ratings, and hit teen and up audiences or general audiences. That's what that is.
I also don't think AO3 necessarily has the because some of these tags like dead dove do not eat. There's no
Mhm.
labeling to that. If you're not familiar with AO3 and its terminology, it's like it's like the lemon
Yeah.
scale in reverse. The lemon scale is to hide what was smut. This is like it's hiding what's horrific content. AO3 probably should on some of these tags that are just part of the discourse of the site actually have an informational page.
Yes, but dead dove do not eat is not allowed to be a tag on its own in any fiction, right? Like an author cannot just post a fic with a title and a summary and the tag dead dove do not eat, right? The to be able to tag dead dove not eat, you have to have tagged the other things that are going to be the dead dove, right? Like that is the actual prerequisite of using the tag dead dove do not eat. You have to have tagged the other things. If you don't want to see those things, they're in the tags. Pay attention to the tags or exclude them from your tags.
Dead dove do not
Because
eat is
the
basically just
volunteers, because the volunteers have already gone through and like dead dove do not eat. If you type in dead dove do not eat and you click just dead dove do not eat, it should filter out dead dove do not eat across every story on the website. Because volunteers group tags, right? Like so some people will say like dead dove do not eat and then they'll like add a little extra on the tag or it's like the okay, there's a tag oh god, what's it called? Oh yeah, no beta, we die like blank, right? And then people insert different character names, right? So the way that the volunteers handle tagging is that all tags that say no beta we die like and then a character's name are included in the same overarching tag. So when you get rid of one of them, you get rid of all of them regardless of which character's name is tagged, right? As the tags are created. They do the same thing with dead dove do not eat. So if there is a version of the dead dove do not eat tag, it is automatically excluded if you exclude dead dove do not eat, because they're all under the same tag family that the volunteers create manually as new tags are created, because that is a job that people do.
I think my problem with the dead dove do not eat tag, and this is a problem with the reliance on it in some ways. Dead dove do not eat is not that is very particularly site culture language. Now,
Well,
this isn't
it's
like
general internet stuff.
but it's still slang. It is still
Yeah,
slang. You're not going to get that coming blindly onto the site, and you really have to be familiar with the fanfiction culture to understand what it means. I didn't understand what it meant until like a few years back. So it's it's a bit counterintuitive compared to if that tag had been something like content warning, which is effectively what it means.
but not every fic uses dead dove do not eat, right? Only some fics use it. There's plenty of fics that include mature content that don't use dead dove do not eat,
Yeah.
right? And you'd be filtering those out by just getting like excluding like explicit and mature works, and maybe excluding like graphic depictions of violence, rape, non-con, major character death, underage sex. Like these are all actual archive warnings, right? Not even tags, but archive warnings that authors apply to their works that you can just exclude in their entirety with the click of a single button. I obviously we're just going in circles here. I think
Yeah.
AO3's tagging system is understandable, relatively intuitive, and completely sufficient, and honestly above what they really need to include, right? Especially with the way that they categorize tags and that sort of thing with the volunteer work and shit. And you obviously don't necessarily agree, right?
No,
But I
I think
mean,
it's a little outdated, a little unintuitive, not immediately obvious, especially on mobile where you have to actually click a button that says filters to see the tags in the filter system. And it's a lot of the lingo used in the tags is very inside baseball.
I don't think there's as many inside tags that go cross fandom as you think. And if they're not going cross fandom, then if you're a fan of the fandom, you already know the stuff. You know, because there's plenty of lingo things that exist in like one fandom I read that don't exist in any other.
It's not really worth going in the circles about this. I was just laying, like you did, I was just laying out
Yeah. Yeah.
my particular thought on AO3's current systems.
Yeah. So I love it. Nick Nack hates it.
Yes, I've always said this is not a disagreement that's brand new between us.
No. We've discussed this before. I love AO3's tagging system, and that's coming from someone who started on fanfiction.net. Because I think fanfiction.net doesn't offer enough like variety of tagging. I actually think fanfiction.net needs more categories to put things in. I was ecstatic when they added the extra 2 characters, so you could now sort by like 4 characters, and the button where you could click to indicate if you wanted the 2 characters you selected in a relationship or out of a relationship. Oh, I thought that was the greatest thing ever. It took them way too long to add that.
Look, I like the fanfiction site I used before AO3 was also fanfiction.net, but I also think fanfiction.net for the casual user is a significantly more intuitive system for the casual user.
Potentially. I think fanfiction.net's biggest downfall right now is its ads.
Yeah, no, I can't stand it. That's why I
Yeah.
stopped using it. Is I go on there, I'm like, oh, I'm getting actual pop-up ads the same way I get on like
Yeah.
pirating streaming sites if I were to use one.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because it didn't really used to have intrusive ads and now they're everywhere. Like, I
Yeah.
get it, you're monetizing, but also if I see another fucking ad for some shit in the middle of my story, I'm gonna crash the fuck out. And honestly, like I said, Wattpad gave me anxiety. I went there one time because I was recommended a story from someone on AO3. I clicked into it and oh my fucking god. That was hell. Nothing worked. I searched the exact name of the fanfiction and it did nothing. God. Praise to anyone who can actively use Wattpad in an intuitive way. I cannot understand it. I cannot cope with it.
There are people that make money on Wattpad.
Yeah, but it's the fan fiction side of it that's like
Yeah.
so unintuitive to use. Like you can
Wattpad
literally
is
search the name of a fic and Wattpad would rather recommend you 15 other things than the thing you're searching.
Wattpad and like I've never heard of good things from Wattpad as a fanfiction site. I do know that it's always been kind of the most accessible self-publishing site for just original works.
Yeah, yeah. And yes, I know there are places like LiveJournal and Quora and all these other stuff. I know of them. I have used them. I do not actively use them.
I
I
always thought
just
Quora
don't.
was just a question and answer service.
Yeah,
Like
it's
Yahoo
not
Answers.
surprisingly.
Like
It's not surprisingly.
I've never delved into Quora deeply. Even though I have an account.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. But yeah. Anyways, this is the long and the short of it. There's a big hubbub right now. I expect it will die down in the next month or so. Much like the whole heated rivalry thing that was like at its worst in December, January, has for the large part died down. Now the bigger ongoing problem on AO3 is that people are starting to develop work skins that can detect the code that's left behind when people copy paste AI generated stories onto AO3 to alert people that the story they're reading is AI generated. And there are now skins you can activate that will tell you, like, if you know. Because, like, for example, like Claude AI, apparently there's a bit of the code in Claude AI that when you just copy paste without removing it, actually copies over Claude AI indications, and you can catch that in AO3 using work skins, which will turn the work bright red to show you that it is AI, right? Or has AI use in it. And then you can actually open up the AO3 code for the story and find out how many times the markers are used.
I see this as an
And
absolute win. I think AO3 should be taking advantage
yeah,
of that function.
no, it's great. Like because the skins are easy to install. The only problem is if an author knows that the AI that they're copying from does something like this, they can go in and remove the indicators before they publish the story. So it's not perfect, it's not foolproof, but there is a pretty large right now problem with AI generated fanfiction on AO3, especially in really, really recent huge fandoms. And so
And like
that's kind of something that's huh?
the average AI person is also just lazy. So like the
Well,
idea
what's
that they're all going to think to take it out, like I kill
no.
the whack those moles where you can.
I genuinely I and the thing is, you know what the worst part about it is? You know how everyone says, "Oh, you can absolutely tell when it's AI?" You can't. Not every time. Not if an author is good enough at what they do. You can't. And you know how I know this? I read so much fan fiction, right, Nick Nack? You would
Mm-hmm.
expect that of anyone in the world, I would be able to tell if something is AI generated, right? Because there would be tells and stuff like that. After these skins came out, I went back through my bookmarks and I found 6 different works I had bookmarked that were Claude AI generated. And I had no clue. Like they were genuinely just good fan fictions, I thought. Since then, I've come across at least 7 or 8 more authors. I remember I found one author specifically, the fan fiction I was reading tagged as AI generated, but I went to their profile and I was like, well, they have a bunch of other works, right? And then I checked the dating. They published over 300 works in the last 6 months. How much you want to bet every single one of them was going to alert on my skin?
All of them.
Yeah. So that's the other big thing right now. And I know that the OTW right now is currently trying to decide what they're going to do with AI generated things because there's already technically a tag on AO3. You can tag your work as AI assisted writing or AI generated, right? And I actually agree with the idea that you should just be able to tag them, right? And authors should just tag them because then if you don't want to read AI generated stuff, you filter it out. But a lot of authors are not tagging their work as AI, obviously, because they don't want the backlash. And to be honest, fan fiction is a creative process. I don't understand the point of using AI. Like you're not making profit. And like these fics aren't the sort of fics that are like so popular that they're breaking containment and becoming like phenoms.
Okay, this is not about to be some pro AI rant here. I kind of get it. Sometimes, and this is something, this is speaking on instincts as to why I do creative writing. Sometimes you look at writing, you're like, man, I have an idea for something in my mind. I'm not getting that by reading this other stuff. I want it to exist. My answer to that is to turn around and try to write it, to either make something I think should exist,
Be the
or prove
change
to
you want to
myself
see
why
in the
it
world.
doesn't exist.
Yeah, be the change you want to see in the world.
If you believe you have no talent for writing, or if you have like an active cognitive disability that prevents you from having the attention span to put that much time into writing, suddenly it makes sense why you might be like, okay, I'm going to generate this in AI so I can read this idea I had. Now, the problem I think is in the
posting it to AO3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care what you do with AI on your own time. I don't care if you want to generate a story on AI that follows the exact points that you want it to follow that is not present on AO3. That is your business as a person. If you're going to post it to AO3, tag it as AI generated because I want to exclude it from my searches. I do not want to be reading my fan fiction and have to worry about whether or not this is AI generated because of the grammar or because of the word choice. I read a fan fiction the other day where the author described one of the characters' body sense as let me find the word, right? Let me find the word real quick because I made a big deal. Voracious. Nick, do you know what Camp Voracious is?
No.
So here's the thing. Camp Voracious is one of those words that I, when reading it, I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. Do you know what I mean? Because I understand that Camp Voracious is a conjugation of the word camphor. Camphor, I know, is a smell that is sometimes used in candles and scents, right? I could not, however, tell you what camphor actually smells like or what type of plant it is. I know it's a plant. I know it smells of something. I don't know what that is, and I would never use it as the word camphoraceous in a story, right? By the way, it's mentholy. It's basically mothball and menthol smell. Why would you want to describe your main male protagonist, who you are trying to say smells attractively good, as mothbally and mentholy if you knew what that word meant?
So
now I'm looking at that story and I'm thinking, is this just somebody overusing a thesaurus, right? Or do I need to be concerned?
So I've learned that there are tells to AI writing that aren't necessarily what you think. Like typically when you're thinking AI writing, you think the tells are going to be like, this sentence doesn't make any sense. That's the kind of thing that accuracy is eventually going to fix.
Yeah.
What it's not fixing is the fact that the AI isn't actually coming up with any original ideas.
Yeah.
So two things happen. The first, overcomplicated words, where it's trying to imitate good prose by substituting good prose for words
Big
that no
words.
one would ever use.
Like camphoracious.
The other one is AI is going to do what's kind of called it's writing that might sound good as you're reading it, but means nothing, leads
Yeah.
to nothing.
Yeah, like
And this is
unnecessary story beats, things that
yeah,
don't really have an effect on the plot, like huge sections of writing where nothing actually happens, but you've wasted 600 words.
and that said, this is still a problem because while like a very intentional writer is very obviously not going to be AI, depending on their phrasing and like if they're actually doing stuff with their writing that you can identify as you're reading. Fluff writers is an entire genre,
Yeah.
and fluff
Yeah.
is an entire genre of doing nothing and feeling good about reading it for words and words and words at a time. And I know you like your
Yep.
fluff.
I do like my fluff. I sometimes I need the balm of fluff on my soul, you know? Here's the thing, in general, I read a lot of things that make me cry. I like to read angst. But that love of angst also comes with a heavy dose of sometimes I just need to read a story about these two characters cuddling while watching their favorite TV show and doing nothing. Because I just watched that character get mentally and emotionally ripped to shreds by their entire life for 500,000 words. I now need 500 words of them sitting on a couch eating pretzels.
Is that what you did after watching the recent Spider-Man movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing. But so the AI is becoming a problem, and I know that the OTW right now is currently in the process of having roundtables and discussions and trying to decide what their rule is going to be on the posting of AI generated stuff. And to be honest, I think I fall on the side that if you're going to post it, tag it, right? Like it's an archive.
If you're gonna share
I
it, it should
can't
be like, look at
stop
this
you from
cool
posting
story
it.
that I gen with this idea. It should not
Yeah,
be lumped in with the actual writers trying to practice their
yeah.
craft there.
Exactly. So that's kind of the big thing for me when it comes to AI on AO3 because I don't want to read AI on AO3. I want to read real people writing fucked up things. I want real people to flavor my angst.
I don't want artificial people who are creatively bankrupt. I want
I
real
want
people who are
real people.
creatively bankrupt.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I pretty much agree with that. I get the appeal of being like, look at this cool thing I thought up in Gen Dev. Take a look at it. Like, look, I'm not like I will rail against AI. I'm not above occasionally seeing a little AI trend that I chuckle at. That happens. Where
Yeah.
unfortunately we're people. We're immature. We're all children at heart. We're stupid. We're 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Um, but enforcing the you have to tag it, and if we catch you with our systems not tagging it, it will get taken down.
Yeah.
That
Is I
that to
think
me
fair.
is important in protecting the sort of the creative development of these authors.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's the same thing, and that's the same restriction that would be put on people who are posting things that would fit under dead dev not eat but aren't tagging them, right? Is that if you put something in your story that needs to be tagged and isn't tagged, you can be reported. Like that's just how it works, right? Like it's very simple. So I like because logistically they're not going to be able to ban AI from AO3, right? Because it's already there. It already exists. I think last I checked, the AI generated tag had like over 12,000 stories in it. Let me take a quick peek right now because I know what the tag is. Let's see. Okay, so AI generated the tag. Yeah, the tag has 12,000 stories in it. You know, across many fandoms. Like it's not going away. It's not
Also, like
disappearing.
the same way I joked about adding a eliminate dead dev don't do not eat button, I actually think practically they should add a pretty upfront obvious exclude AI button.
Yeah,
The same way there's
that
like an
one I agree
exclude
with.
crossovers button.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Very much do. And to be honest, I actually appreciate authors who tag their fic as AI generated text.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not gonna sit here and go, oh my god, how dare you. I'm gonna sit here and go, thank you for tagging it, because that is all I wanted you to do, is to tag it so that I personally can avoid it. Also, on the topic of, you were saying that, like, if you use AI generation to make something because you're not finding it on AO3, right? Be the change you want to create in the world. Be that person that I once read, that I once looked up. I once looked up a pairing. I think it was like a Stargate pairing, right? There were 74 fan fictions in this entire pairing. 71 of them were written by the same author. Be the change you want to see in this world. Write 71 out of 74 fanfictions for an obscure rare pair. Be that change. I will appreciate you for being that change.
Fair
Even if
enough,
they're
I
not
guess,
good,
but I do
I will
also point out
appreciate
that
your
not
dedication.
everybody that has a creative idea particularly actually has the
Yeah,
attention span to write. When was the last time
I
you sat
don't.
down and creatively wrote anything?
I don't.
Yeah,
I
I
know
know because I've
myself
talked
better
with
than
you
that. I
about that,
don't.
and I know you
Yeah.
have creative ideas. You and I have
Yeah.
discussed them back and forth, and you do incorporate stuff like that in other creative mediums like D&D campaigns.
Yeah, I do not have the mental and physical capacity and attention span to sit down and write the things I think of in my mind, right? Like, I just don't have that capacity at the point in my life that I'm at. I don't have the patience, I don't have the time, I don't have the desire, right? That doesn't mean that I don't think of things I think would make great fan fictions, right? I mean, famously, I make the joke is that I actually can access a lot of my REM sleep memories, right? Like, famously, I'm very good at remembering what I dream of, right? And one of my ways to get to sleep is to go lie down and start thinking about a story that I've never read that I like in my head, right? Like, I'll just create a little story where I'm one of the characters and I'll fall asleep thinking about it and I'll wake up and it'll have finished itself in my dream.
Famously, I literally described the manga spinoff of Villainess to you. You didn't read it, but then your mind, like in your REM sleep, probably substituted watching season 2 of Villainess for not even reading that manga, watching like the
Complete with
description of what
color,
I told you.
voices, yeah, color, voices, animation, an opening, and ending. Like, I have a very creative mind. I just don't have the capacity to translate the majority of that into physical media.
It's attention span. It's entirely attention span.
Yeah, but I could sit and read a 2 million word fan fiction for like 3 days straight.
Yes, but we've established that different outlets of attention span are not created equal. Otherwise,
No,
VNs wouldn't have such a problem for you.
no, yeah, this is correct. This is true. In fact, famously, I read fan fiction so fast that I started reading crossovers because I ran out of things to read in the regular archives of several fan fiction archives that I like. And then discovered that crossovers can be good when done in the correct ways. But yeah, so I did, like, long and short of it, that's the other thing that's currently going on AO3 is AI writing, whether or not it's tagged, and people developing, like, literally coding work skins and then making them publicly available with instructions, because it's like a two-step process, basically, to be able to just code your AO3 skin so that the second you open something that has certain AIs detected, it'll trigger red. And boy, is it a bright fucking red knickknack. I opened a fanfiction on my computer screen and it turned my entire, like that really, really bright primary color red? Whole screen.
It seems appropriate. It's showing
Solid.
you the creative murder scene.
Like, it genuinely shocked me a little bit when I first opened one and it did that. I was like, holy shit, that's bright. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I would be scared to turn that on because I'm not going to lie, I'm not always putting on my most critical brain when I'm just reading fan fiction on a community
Yeah.
posted website. Because if I turn on that critical brain that would be needed to be like, yeah, this is definitely AI, unfortunately, I would probably also be sitting there like, man, this story kind of sucks for like 8 out of
Yeah.
10 of the works I read.
Yeah. It's not ideal.
No.
No. Oh, I suppose that's kind of the. Oh, you might actually have more luck with me reading visual novels now in a post-heated rivalry AO3 world than you did before. There's a reason for this. So it, I don't read in a lot of archives where the source material is so explicitly modern day and set in our world and based on the exact events of like what's happening around us, right? Like typically I read in fandoms that are very disconnected from like our world, right? But reading in the heated rivalry fan fiction has led me to kind of break a lot of the like rules that I had always maintained about what I'm willing to read, right? To the point of where there are multiple fics that I have read and really enjoyed that involve like heavy repeated use of visual graphics, actual like little phones where I can scroll through the phone like in the story before moving on in the story, like interactive calendars that I can click through and the author has gone through and written a little stupid note for like every day, and like in linked videos and shit. And for the like that has never really been something that's been present in most of the fan fictions I've read up till now, because A, people weren't coding for it on places like fanfiction.net because it requires a shit ton of coding on AO3 and not a lot of people are willing to do that. And B, it wouldn't have fit in most of the archives I read in, right? Because most of the stuff I read isn't necessarily set in like 2020 our world, right? Like it's set in other places, right? Like nebulous time periods and places. But as a result, I've ended up reading quite a few stories that have like very heavy, like graphical and interactive elements, and some stories that are in fact just like 200 pages of texts between characters telling a story over just text messages and images for 200 pages. Like when I downloaded it, 200 pages. So you might actually have mildly better luck with me reading a visual novel if I can access it on my Switch or my phone in the
So what you're
next.
saying is remake of the MiHoYo off the shelf once that phone port comes. I'm kidding.
I'm just saying that there's a decent chance I might be a little bit more tolerative to it.
Well, I'm just gonna hand you the book. I don't think doing the phone port would
Yeah,
actually be
I know,
worthwhile.
but I mean like in general, because I'm
Yeah.
discovering that I can sort of sit down and enjoy that sort of like interactive multimedia aspect,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Well,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see once we get into um, some of the other VNs. I'm having a little bit more time now that I'm almost done with Tsukuhime's, the
Yeah.
original version that I've been doing and preparing for the channel.
See, you and Dakota Doyle share a brain cell.
You hit the MiHoYo time. Look, we
Yeah,
will do a new
I don't.
MiHoYo off the shelf for the novel, but we're not going to do the VN
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually going to translate to like a better tolerance of like a VN, but I would make the argument that at least one or two of the stories I've read probably have the same amount of like media interactivity to like text presence as something like MiHoYo now. And I
Mm-hmm.
have and like for a long time I'd avoided that sort of thing because I really struggled with it, but I think kind of getting through some really long stuff like that might prove the sort of like straw that breaks the camel's back.
I'll be curious to test it once we eventually do the Fate Stay Night visual novel, because we're going to do it one day.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there. It's a very old VN, but it's also got things like you can click into the menus, and there's just this absolutely useless to the gameplay, but just kind of fun little like in-universe database about the individual servants and their weapons that you can kind of fold through just as you unlock casually as you're playing.
Yeah, and I
Stuff
like
like
that sort
that.
of thing. Yeah. But anyways, so that's sort of the end of my dragging us forcefully into a discussion on AO3. I covered the main things that have been happening over the last like 12 months ish. Um,
Well, that's
and
been a long
that
time
so
coming, and even I came across
yeah,
that recently because I do actually subscribe to a
yeah,
couple of YouTubers that are big into AO3 and that culture.
yeah, yep. So it's good to touch on it, good to discuss it.
That's pretty much all I had here. I thought I was starting on maybe talking about Spider-Man towards the end when people were mostly filtered out of here, but I think they were getting a little too late for that right now.
Yeah, I think maybe we reconvene after we've watched Odyssey for Spider-Man and do both.
Double feature spoiler
Yeah.
discussion.
Oh, and Avatar, triple feature spoiler discussion. A lot, 1 hour per movie.
But Avatar's animated. We can just put up a special about that and not be like, oh, you're getting too far away from animated stuff.
We could, but I am very tempted before we talk about Avatar to buy the art book about it and then actually read about the things where they admitted to using AI, because I'd like to know what they say about it before before I make final judgments on that. I would like to know in what capacity they're using AI in the production process, and it seems like they talk about it a little bit in the art book.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it for me. So
All right, well, we'll see. I guess before we go, Seki, you were talking about maybe doing another stream this week. Is that still on the table?
if I do, it will be Friday night or Sunday. I'm busy tomorrow and I have a work shift on Friday in the afternoon, so I can't do a morning stream. But yeah.
All right. Well, I'm done for the week. I'll be back next probably month. I'll need to talk to Seki. I actually have next week particularly free to do streams on whatever day of the week I really want to. So,
Next week I'm using Thursday
that's fine.
for a Lego stream.
That's fine. But I'll need to talk to Seki. But I will be back next week. Nothing crazy. I'm just gonna do FGO interludes, but I will be back next week.
All
So
right.
see you
Thanks for hanging
guys.
out with us till the end, Dakota.
Bye.